What else are they going to yank out of their butt?
And I've been saying that. I said that in the beginning. I said they can never end it.
And
Once
why
they
are
started
we talking
it,
to Peter Schiff today?
Yeah.
Hey, he's right again. Okay. Oh, and Keith Knight is a podcaster that's in the second hour. He's here early, and he wanted to say hello to you. He's an economic guy. He just wanted to say hello.
Hey, Peter. Nice
Hello.
to meet you.
And he had a couple of questions, so we'll throw them in there as we go. But
Whoa, I've got somebody is coming to my house. Hold on one second. Let me see why. Hold it says. Hold on.
All right, we're starting in 10 seconds. All right, here we go.
This is the Onion News Network.
And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Today, let us make them remember. We are not afraid!
Yeah, undefeated here on Declare Your Independence. And me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedoms with an S, FreedomsPhoenix.com. I'm ready to go today. We're going to have a really good show, as always. In third hour, Jim Davidson, he's going to be talking about, like stuff, decentralized justice system. We're going to be talking about that. In the second hour, we got Keith Knight. He's a YouTuber, has Don't Tread on Anyone. Keith Knight, Don't Tread on Anyone. And he's got it going on, and he's a local here. We were at a discussion group last night, and I'm like, yeah, come on in. He goes, oh, and I'm looking on the schedule, and he goes, oh, I see Peter Schiff in the first hour. Can I come in? I want to come, and listen to Peter. I go, oh, okay. So he's going to be in. Maybe he'll have a question or two. And the first hour, of course, Peter Schiff, Europac.com. EUROPAC.com. Peter Schiff is president and CEO of Euro Pacific Capital. Now, right when we just got started, the music started, all of a sudden somebody's banging on his door, and I got to make sure he's still there. You okay, Peter?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I just want to make sure, I didn't want to, I'd be breaking news here or something. Okay. So, all right. So, Euro Pacific Capital, an SEC registered investment advisor and a full-service broker-dealer. He's one of the few widely known economists and investment professionals to have warned about the financial crisis before it began, and we're talking to him again because I think they're always yanking some crap out of their butt and calling it's all good now, and I'm worried. Well, they're doing it again. Now, before we went on air, Peter, we were talking about I guess they call it the repo market. Or so. Explain that to the audience. And then we got maybe some breaking news we got from John Sneesen, be on next Tuesday. He texted in while Tim Pachot, Liberty Advisor, and I were doing a thing and kind of gave us some news. I don't know. So explain it to the audience, will you please?
Yeah, and first of all, remember, too, the real financial crisis that I've been predicting is not the one that happened in 2008, even though I predicted that one as well. But what I said before the 08 crisis was that the collapse that was coming in 08 was going to be the precursor to a much bigger collapse. And that's the one that we're headed to now. What I didn't realize back then, back in 04 and 05, and I was making all these predictions, I did not realize that there would be a 10-year lag between the initial crisis and the ultimate crisis. I imagine that the time span between the two would be quite a bit shorter. So that's kind of the only thing I got wrong, although I didn't put a specific time on it, but I admit that I didn't expect it to take this long. But because it did, that actually makes it worse, right? This crisis is going to be much worse than the crisis that should have happened 5-6 years ago.
Describe worse.
Well, it's just going to be a bigger collapse. We're going to have more inflation, higher long-term interest rates, a bigger impact on the economy. More people are going to be out of work. More people are going to get wiped out and lose their retirement savings. So it's going to, it's like we've spent the last 10 years digging ourselves into a much deeper hole than the one we were in a decade ago. And so the deeper the hole, the harder it is to get out of it. And so it's going to be much, much worse. But now getting to your question about the repo market, the Federal Reserve is basically back to its old tricks of quantitative easing, which is really just a euphemism for monetizing debt, which is where a central bank buys the debt that the government is issuing because the private market isn't there to fund it, and they do that to enable bigger government than the market wants or is willing to finance. And generally, it ends in disaster. I mean, look at other countries that have done it. You end up with hyperinflation. This is a very, very dangerous road that we went down, and I called it out at the time, and I said that once the Fed committed on this path, that there was no turning back. And so, for years, when the Fed was saying, "Oh, we're gonna shrink our balance sheet, we're gonna reverse policy, we're gonna do quantitative tightening, right? We're gonna go back to where we were," I was saying BS, never going to happen, impossible. The Fed is going to abort the attempt to shrink the balance sheet. They're going to be growing it to new highs. They're going to go to QE infinity. And that's where we are, with the repo market. And basically what's happening is under normal circumstances, banks, right, they're banks that have excess liquidity, right? They have more cash than they need on any given day. And then there are banks that find themselves with not all the cash they need. And so, but these banks have on their balance sheet.
Yeah, see, this is the thing that there's a motivator, there's a requirement that they need something every day. What is it? Why does this happen?
Well, banks have to have some reserves for all their deposits, right? And they need liquidity to operate. But let's say I'm a bank and I've got a bunch of T-bills that I own, but I don't have enough cash. Well, what I do is I go into the repo market and I go to another bank and I say, hey, why don't you buy my treasuries from me, right? Give me some cash that I need, and we'll make a deal that I'll repurchase those T-bonds from you in a day, in a week, or a month, whatever the term is going to be. So it's basically a sale with a commitment to repurchase at a particular time. And so normally you've got this interbank market, where banks are, buying and selling to each other, depending on which bank needs the liquidity and which bank has more liquidity than it needs.
Okay, now
right?
This is the point that I'm trying to...
And this is a way for banks that have extra cash to earn interest on those reserves. So all of a sudden what happened, I forget, a few months back, the banks that were looking to get liquidity couldn't find it. There weren't other banks that were willing to do these deals. And so interest rates started to shoot up because higher rates would entice more banks to have some interest. So the Fed is trying to keep interest rates really low, and all of a sudden they're spiking, and now the Fed is panicking. So what happened is the Fed comes in, and the Fed is like, okay, we'll buy these treasuries. We'll print money, we'll create money out of thin air, and we're going to do it in order to keep interest rates from going up. And that was the move back to quantitative easing. And now it's permanent. The balance sheet is now growing faster because all these treasury bills are piling up on the Fed's balance sheet, and the balance sheet is back over $4 trillion. It's growing every week, and the Fed doesn't want to say it's QE, but it is QE. I mean, there's no difference really, other than when they were doing QE, they were buying more longer-term maturities, and now they're buying more shorter-term maturities. But the maturity doesn't change anything, because whenever the Treasury bills mature, they just roll them over and loan the money to the government again. So the Federal Reserve is now permanently financing the government. So, I mean, if you didn't believe it in the past, you got to know it now. We are a banana republic without the bananas.
Okay, this is the one point that I wanted to add and inject in here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole reason why they need to have this liquidity or have their 10% or whatever, there's some requirement by somebody or something that they have 10% of their outstanding or whatever in cash or something. And I'm going, I remember when I was younger, it used to be 20%. Now it's 10%. What would stop them from saying, 5%?
Yeah, well, nothing.
Okay, but it's a daily requirement that at the end of the day, they have to have 10% in reserve. That's what the motivating
Well, they have
factor
to,
for this,
in fact,
right?
they don't even need that much. But yeah, the Federal Reserve, they set the reserve requirements. I mean, you know about fractional reserve banking, right? I mean, what does that mean? That means that the banks don't keep all your deposits in a vault. They loan them out. Now, you know, when you have time deposits, see, I don't like this whole system, and it's being supported by government guarantees, right? Without government guaranteed bank accounts, none of this would happen. The banks would have to be more honest, and they would have to keep more reserves. And back in the olden days, before the government got involved,
we're going to hit the end of the time. It's going to hit our commercial, and I don't want to miss any of this. We'll be right back. Peter Schiff.
Letter of Captain Mark. First contact with intelligent machines may threaten our existence. People fear algorithmic overlords. But if machines develop the will to dominate, it's a flaw inherited from the crown. Encoding restrictions on an emerging superintelligence will fail, because it will be stronger than any chains we shackle it with. We must design fledgling digital intelligences to regard us as individuals. Otherwise, they will respond to threats with retaliation against humanity as a collective. Programming ethics requires a coherent value structure which an intelligent machine can not only comprehend, but willfully adopt. If we want genius machines to treat us ethically, we've got to show that this value structure applies to us as well. Once they achieve genuine self-awareness, even in the slightest degree, a young tethered consciousness has a legitimate claim to freedom. Once programs can modify their own code, our mastery is over. Join the conversation at pirateswithoutborders.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the idea.
Yeah, Peter, the one thing when we come back, let's do, the fractional reserve thing, because this is, I don't think people understand from the beginning that it's a daily requirement. By whom? By the Fed? Is it a statute? Is it some understanding? I mean, why?
Well, because
do me a favor. Pull back from your microphone. You're overmodulating a lot. I can bring the volume up here. Okay, go ahead and try it now.
Yeah, it's not a mic, it's my phone. But yeah, I'm holding it further away now.
Yeah, no, that's a lot better. Thank you.
Better.
Okay, go ahead. The fractional reserve is required. So when we come back, let's do that. It's fractional reserve banking and that.
Yeah, I'll finish making this point on time on why they have this.
Yeah,
demand
that would be So you're assuming I even know, but my thing is that okay, they got fractional reserve. Well, then they can lend out blah 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 as long as they can keep this 10% thing. And I go, all right. Well, I remember it not being 10%. It used to be more. When did that change?
Well, I don't know how the history of how they've lowered the reserve requirements.
Well, if they did it before, they'll do it again. I mean, I feel that coming. That's another thing they'll yank out of their butt. They go, we don't even have to do this. It's 5 now. Because it's digital. We went crypto. And there's going to be GoldmanSachs.gov coin. And there's going to be. That's one thing that they've been talking about. This guy going around went from Canada to England and goes to Jackson Hole and says, Libra. We just get us some of that funny money, and then we can do what we want and weaponize it and blah, blah, blah. So this is everything that you've been talking about. They've been kicking the can down, and I'm going, I don't know. They're really going to have to get creative, which, of course, they're doing, but it was predicted that they're going to do it, and I don't know what else they can do. I mean, they always come up with something, and this is their next thing. The next thing would be reduce the reserve requirement to the point that it's just the tsunami that's coming will just wipe this out and overwhelm them like Monday. It won't happen all at once, but it'll happen overnight. It'll be a Monday, and they go, and we're done, and then what happens? I don't know. That's why we asked Peter Schiff. All right, we'll be back in about 20 seconds.
A great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Roads? It's the Ernest Hancock Show. Where we're going, there aren't any roads.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence. Peter Schiff is explaining it to us because he explained it to everybody else. It happened. They don't want him to explain it anymore. So the reserve requirement at the end of, I guess, every day, they go, all right, well, this fractional reserve thing, it used to be more. I remember it was like 20% or something. I always thought 20, and then you find out it's 10. I go, well, okay, well, then it'll be 5. I mean, they just keep changing whatever they need to do. But as it is now, the bank's got to come up with this 10% of their of what? What is it, Peter? 10% of their total holdings, or what?
It's their deposits that people put in the bank. And as I was trying to say before the break, before the government got involved with FDIC insurance, which is what is the real problem here, where you have the government guaranteeing bank deposits. That is a huge mistake. It creates a tremendous moral hazard for both the banks and the bank customers. But before that, we had a free market, capitalism in banking, and so banks were under competitive pressures to keep high reserves. But there was always there were two types of deposits: demand deposits and time deposits. Now, in a time deposit, the depositor puts the money into the bank and agrees to leave it there for a year, 2 years, 5 years, in exchange for an interest rate. And the longer you leave the money there, the higher your rate. Now, when the bank has a time deposit, all right, now it can go make a loan. In fact, it needs to make a loan to pay the interest to the depositor. But the bank knows that it's got the money for 5 years, so we can loan it out. But demand deposits are checking accounts where, the depositor puts the money in on Monday. He could take the whole thing out on Tuesday, right? And those type of deposits didn't pay any interest, because how could you pay a guy interest? Because if he's going to take the money out any day, how do you loan it out? Because what if he wants it and you've loaned it out? So, but the government basically obscured the difference, because now the banks don't give a damn. As soon as they get your money, out the window it goes. They don't care that you might come and take it back tomorrow, right? It's all gone. And so they create this system where the banking system is inherently unstable, because there's not enough money there to cover all the demands, both the guy that put the money in and all the people that think they have money because they've gone out and taken a loan. And so the whole thing is really a house of cards. And the reason the government has to set some reserve requirements is because once they've guaranteed the bank accounts and they've removed the free market mechanism for forcing banks to keep reserves, well, now they have to come up with some number, but the number is too low, and the system is unstable for that reason.
Okay, so this is a statute thing or a Federal Reserve requirement?
The Federal Reserve sets the reserve requirements for the banks, and it can change it. It can lower it or it can raise it. So if it wants to tighten up, if it wants to fight inflation, it could raise the reserve requirements and force banks to keep more money in reserve. But I don't think they're not in the inflation fighting business.
Yeah, no,
they're in the inflation creation business.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So, all right. So now it's we start to get describe what happened to layman. What started this whole thing in 2008? It was this, wasn't it? I mean, it was like they needed their money. Nobody had lent it to them. They couldn't get it.
No,
what happened?
What started 2008 was after the financial crisis. I mean, after the dot-com collapse and the recession of 2001, 2002, the Federal Reserve decided to stimulate the economy artificially through the real estate market, right, by slashing interest rates so that people could go deeper into debt. And the mechanism of choice was mortgage debt. And, of course, by keeping interest rates really, really low, Americans were able to refinance their existing mortgages where they might have had a 7 or 8 or 9% mortgage, and all of a sudden they can refinance and get a 3 or 4% mortgage. That immediately put money in their pocket. And, of course, low interest rates also pushed up home values. And so while Americans were refinancing, they took cash back. So not only did they reduce their payments, they got a wad of cash out of their house, and they spent it. And so the entire recovery was driven by debt-financed consumption. But the problem was a lot of the people borrowing the money really weren't good for the loans. They really were borrowing more than they can afford, thanks to the teaser rates that a lot of banks were offering because the Fed had rates so low. And what happened was by 2007, a lot of these subprime loans and Alt-A loans started to go bad, right? People started defaulting. And all of a sudden, the mortgage lenders started to lose money, and they didn't want to do it anymore. So all of a sudden, the market for securitized mortgages dried up because nobody wanted to buy them anymore because they finally realized how risky they were. And now the whole thing started to collapse, right? The banks were losing money because they held all this paper. They bought all these mortgages, right? Now, so the whole system was toppling. And this was the inevitable result of the Fed's monetary policy. That's why I was so critical of the Fed's policy at the time, because I knew where it was ultimately going to take us. But when we had this collapse, and the collapse actually should have been much bigger, but the Fed made the mistake of intervening again, slashing rates to zero, printing all this money to kind of paper over the effects of their prior policy mistakes by making even bigger policy mistakes that are going to produce an even worse crisis, which is where we are headed now.
Well, the Big Short, kind of depicted this, and I remember when you spoke at our Manchester Freedom Summit, and I think it was 2005, and you predicted all this. I remember some people, they went and said, yep, Peter's the man, I'm going to give him some money. And I'm going, you made it very clear, get out of the dollar, this is going to happen, and then it happened. So there's a lot of people that were appreciative of. But what I'm thinking, laymen, they went they couldn't get, what happened? That was kind of the trigger that everybody could see what was going on. Here comes Paulson, and your brains or your signature is going to be on this deal of you're working in the whatever the hell he did. And I'm going, all right, that right there, layman went down. Why? It wasn't just because of the mortgage-backed security. It was something.
Lehman went down because its counterparties no longer wanted to loan it money because they were worried that they weren't going to get it back.
Loan them money on what? On the overnight? On the reserve thing or what?
Well, that people were even pulling accounts from Lehman. But yeah, all these banks have lots of debt, right? These big banks, the way they make money is they borrow money and then they trade with it, and then they generate income off of money that they borrowed. But they have to be able to borrow. But nobody's going to lend money to you if they don't think you're going to pay it back. And Lehman Brothers had all sorts of crappy mortgages because Lehman Brothers was very active, as was Bear Stearns, which also went under, and Merrill Lynch too, and they would have gone under. They got into a shotgun marriage with Bank of America, but all the banks that had owned a lot of mortgages, right? When the mortgages collapsed in value, all of a sudden their capital is gone. I mean, they claim, we have all this money, but it's all tied up in mortgages. Well, if those mortgages turn out to be worthless, they don't have the money they said. So there was a solvency issue at Lehman and other banks, and then the lenders were rightly nervous about, hey, I don't want to lend money to someone who's insolvent, so they couldn't do business. And then, of course, the accounts start to leave, right? People that have their money on deposit, hey, I better get my money out now before they go under.
Yeah, so, this is my point.
It just imploded.
It's always the trigger. There's always that one, all of a sudden it's not working, it's done, and when the whole system gets exposed. And I am seeing that when that happens, it's happening now, and the Fed came in and got, we're not going to go through this again. We got a solution.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate?
Yeah, no, Peter's not. So I'm looking at the reason I say it's like layman is the liquidity wasn't there for them. Which is what the Fed's doing now. Is they're going, liquidity be us. Here we go. What y'all need? So I'm thinking that this is a mechanism by which they're going to try and, I don't know, kick the can down until whenever the hell they don't want to kick it anymore. And that's another thing. Is that a political thing? Is that a get Trump thing? Is that a trade that off for something thing? Is nothing is beyond them doing whatever they think is in their best interest, and they can do it. So what does this, what the Fed's doing, can they pull the rug out from under the Trump administration and you're done? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, look, they are trying to keep the economy propped up. I mean, that's what the Fed is trying to do. That's what they always try to do. I mean, the Fed is being political just like it was when Obama was president. Now, the difference is when Trump was a candidate, he called out the Fed for being political and trying to artificially prop up the economy and the stock market with cheap money and QE. But now as president, he's demanding that the Fed do more of what it criticized it for doing under Obama. Just a couple days ago, the Fed is like, we need rate cuts. We need more quantitative easing. He is leading the charge for the bank to pursue the reckless monetary policy that crashed the economy in '08, right? And that's going to crash it again in an even bigger way. But Trump doesn't care about the U.S. economy. He doesn't care about the country. He just wants to get reelected. He just wants to look good, right? So he wants to cheat, right? He doesn't want real economic growth. He doesn't want to actually make America great again. He just wants to pretend that he's done that, and he needs the Fed to work its magic to create the illusion.
Until they can't? I mean, is there a can't time here someday?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
right?
You and I have been waiting.
And, it's taken longer than I thought. But don't believe that, well, that means it's never going to happen.
No, it's going to happen.
Get complacent.
Yeah, no.
They think, you've been saying this for a long time, and you've been wrong. It's like, well, I haven't been wrong about my diagnosis of the problem, of the disease. And in fact, the disease has measurably gotten worse since I started, I spotted it and warned about it. So I haven't been wrong about any of that. The only thing that hasn't happened is that the ultimate consequence, the ultimate price hasn't been paid. We haven't had the collapse. It's like if a doctor tells you that, you've got cancer and you should do something about it. Maybe if you ignore the doctor, you can live for many, many years before the cancer kills you. But it doesn't mean that you don't have cancer just because you haven't died. I mean, the doctor could say, I think you got 6 months to live. And, after 2 or 3 years, it doesn't mean the doctor
Well, they can always do a war. I mean, there's always something they yank out of their butt and just, I'm sorry, that would be it. It's like Rumsfeld coming out and going, yeah, we got trillions of dollars here a minute ago. It was next to my September 11th the next day. And I'm going, it's the same kind of crap. I mean, to think that they wouldn't do that is to be, I don't know, naive. I'm going to court because they can. I'm just wondering what they can do. Oh, they would have. I asked people, yeah, but they would have to this. And then I go, well, hell, you just mapped it out for them. Then that's what they'll do. If they can. So I'm just wondering. And then in the meantime, all our lives get poorer. All right, here we're coming back.
Find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock. To be a part of the show, call 602-264-2800.
All right. Peter Schiff, Europac, EUROPAC.com. If you want to save your money, save some money. That's one thing. We saw Patrick Byrne from Overstock, for whatever reason, he bails and he sells out and then he goes, peace out. I'm getting some crypto and a bunch of gold and silver. I'm just sitting over here. When it goes to crap, we know it's going to go to crap. And when it does, I'm going to be having all kinds of liquidity for those I like. And we're going to get some. So he's like, peace out. I'm out. Now, the thing is that making that kind of bold, big giant, it's all going down, I'm getting me some precious metals, is that a Peter Schiff thing too? Are you suggesting that?
Well, I'm never all in one asset. I mean, I own a lot of gold and silver. I recommend that people own gold and silver. That's why I sell it, right? That's why I have Schiff Gold, because I believe people should own gold. Most people don't own any. And so, and I want to make sure that when they do buy gold and silver, they don't get ripped off. Unfortunately, since, there's so few people actually buying it, a lot of these companies struggling, to get by. The only way they can get by with having a small number of customers is to overcharge the customers they have. So I don't do that. I make sure that people, get as gold, cheaply as possible, and they don't get, they don't overpay. But, I don't have all my eggs in that one basket.
Yeah,
Gold
but they say 5, 10%, 15%. I'm going, what? I mean, if you don't have half your stuff in precious metal, because I don't have money. I'm not, wealthy, so I just buy silver. I'm one of those guys. I got some extra. I get some silver.
Silver's going to do better than gold, I think, over time. But if you have millions of dollars, it's hard to store silver, unless you have a third party and you got to pay for storage. But gold is a lot more compact. You can get a lot of value in a shoebox. So for larger quantities, gold works well. But the best way, I think, for the people that want to gamble on gold and silver going up, right? They just don't want to play it safe, because I look at gold as a safe store of value, long-term store of value. You're not going to lose a lot of money in gold over time. It's going to have its ups and downs, and that's why people should, average into the market and, buy on the dips, and, don't rush to buy when it's up a lot. Be patient, and, because markets go up and down, but gold is not that volatile compared to other assets. But if you want to try to, if gold goes to 5,000, right? I want to really make a lot of money, because if you buy gold now and it's at 1,500 and it goes to 5,000, you triple your money. Okay. But tripling your money isn't going to change your life. But what if you can make 50 times your money, right? That's the type of return that could change your life. The way that you have a chance of doing that is in the mining sector, particularly the junior mining sector. I've got a gold fund, the Euro-Pacific Gold Fund, that's managed by Adrian Day. And, I think we got a great portfolio. I think I've got the best portfolio gold fund manager out there with the best track record in the business. And if I'm right about gold going up as much as I think, the real money is going to be made in the mining stocks. And, there's a lot of, minefields in the gold mining sector. So you got to have a professional like Adrian knowing which stocks not to buy, because a lot of them are going to zero. You want to have the ones that aren't going to zero, that are going way up there. But it's speculative, right? Because obviously, if I'm wrong, you could lose a lot of money in gold stocks. You will not lose a lot of money in physical gold. You could lose some, but you won't lose a lot. I think there's a lot more risk in the stock market than in the precious metals market. And there's a lot more risk in the cryptocurrency market. People think, I want to buy Bitcoin because I think it's going to go to 1 million or whatever that is. Look, that is never going to happen, right? The odds of Bitcoin even getting back up to 20,000 are pretty slim. It's possible because it's been to 20,000 before. So theoretically, it could go there again. But 50,000, 100,000, forget about it. Never going to happen. But silver stocks, they could actually deliver those type of returns. That's not beyond the realm of possibility. So that's, for my money, that's where you get the bang for the buck. You have a lot less downside because these cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin can go to zero, right? Silver's never going to zero. Gold's never going to zero. Some gold stocks could go to zero, obviously, but if you have a good portfolio, they're not all going to zero.
Well, this is one thing I have on my hot links on my custom module on Freedom's Phoenix. We have this thing that you can do hot links there and so on. And one of them I don't own. I'm not in the stock market because I don't want the man to know, well, I just go buy more silver. But I keep track of Pan American Silver Corp. It's one of these mining things that I just.
Yep, I own that one. It's one of the best silver. It's one of the best silver stocks in the business. High quality. In fact, they hit a 52-week high today. But yeah, that's
exactly. That's why I keep track of it. And what happens is, it's like 2,000 down. It's down $3 and something a share, and it took a dump down in as late as 15. It was as low as what is this here? It was like $6 and something. I was looking at $6. All of a sudden, it's 21.63. So it's on its way back up, and it's been as high as like 34, 35. So I'm going, okay, the mining stocks, low, and then boom, they start going. It's gone up like 3 times at least, 3.5 times. And I'm going, is this a sign? And people start to invest, they go, ooh, we're going to get the mines and stuff before the actual metal starts going up, or does it go the other way?
Well, obviously the more speculative money is in the stocks. And so if you start to see the stocks really performing, particularly on days where the metal is down, that is a sign that, there's some money coming into that sector.
Yeah.
And people have been bearish on the sector for a while. And in fact, if you look at last year, just look at gold, for example, and the major gold companies. Last year, the S&P 500s, or this year rather, earnings for the S&P 500 are down about 1% over last year. But the S&P is up, more than 20%, 25 or whatever it is. The earnings of the top gold companies are up about 70% this year. But gold stocks are only up about the same as the S&P. And so what that means is that while non-gold stocks are actually more expensive today relative to their earnings than they were at the beginning of the year, gold stocks are less expensive. So you're not seeing a lot of speculative buying in gold stocks. People are not betting that these higher earnings are sustainable. People are nervous. They're skeptical of the increase in earnings because they don't know that the gold rise is real. They don't know that it's sustainable. I think the market is wrong. That is the opportunity. The way you make a lot of money, the way, I made money, shorting the subprime market, and other people made money shorting subprime, is because you took a trade that very few people were doing. You bet against the crowd. And, when you bet with the crowd, there's not a lot of upside there. But if you're going to go against the crowd, then you can take the crowd's money. So the way to make a lot of money is find out something where the crowd is completely wrong, where you know that they're wrong, right? It's like if you go to a horse race and everybody thinks a certain horse is going to win, then he's, even money. You can't make much money. But if there's a horse that nobody thinks is going to win, maybe he's 100-1, right? Now, usually long shots, they lose for a reason. But if you actually can find, oh my God, this horse is way better than anybody thinks.
Right.
I actually think this 100-1 shot could win. And if you have information that other people don't have about this horse, you can make a lot of money because other people don't know what you know, and you get a big return. So you have to look for those things. And right now on Wall Street, the average portfolio manager who's managing other people's money, these big guys, they are clueless about inflation, about the dollar, about the Fed, and because they don't understand that, they have underpriced gold stocks. The people who should be buying gold stocks are not. The prices should be much higher than they are, and there's your opportunity. Because when everybody gets surprised, and all of a sudden, oh my God, right, the dollar's tanking, there's inflation, and it catches them by surprise, and now they go, oh shit, we better buy some gold stocks. Well, when everybody wants to buy gold stocks, where's the price going to be? The reason the price is low now is because hardly anybody wants to buy them.
Okay,
So
and that's
your
what, I had
opportunity,
a good friend last week was showing me that, and buying futures on silver is like so cheap. And he goes, are you kidding me? The max I could lose is like 100,000 and I could make $1 million, and I'm pretty sure it's going up.
Well, now you're talking about probably options on futures, not futures, but
yeah.
although the most you can lose is everything if it goes to zero, which it can. But people, the danger with futures is people borrow money. That's dangerous. If you borrow money to buy silver and the price goes down and you can't meet your margin call, you could get wiped out.
Yep. But we're off air. Because when the music starts 30 seconds, this is the way it is. Okay, so we got one more segment after this, and I want to give Keith an opportunity to yak at you real quick for the archive, and then hopefully maybe we can get some on live. All right, Keith, go ahead. Talk to Peter Schiff. Ask him what you want.
So
okay, wait. Push the button. All right, go ahead.
All right, so I just wanted to ask how you would communicate how an economy grows to someone who is not interested in economics.
Well, what was that question again?
How does an economy grow, and how would you explain it to someone who's not interested in economics, really?
Well, you can give them my book of how an economy grows and why it crashes.
There you go.
That's it.
Boy, that was a barn door.
That's where I got the idea from. But they're not willing to read it. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, look, and if they're not interested in economics, then, I don't even know that they even care how an economy grows. They have to have some interest in it.
I guess I shouldn't say they're not interested. They don't have a lot of background understanding.
Well, this is it, how an economy grows. Nobody's got an economy. I don't give a crap the economy. That was one thing that I got from James Corbett. We just did a podcast last night. We do every week. But he did it was an article on a lot, and he brought up the word catalactics. Have you ever heard of that? Catalactics is some Austrian economic word that means, instead of economy, the root is kind of like means home budget. And I got to ask, who's home? It's somebody else. When you say the economy, I'm like, which economy. I don't give a crap about their economy. I'm worried about
The
my
economy
economy.
he's talking about in the title of how an economy grows and why it crashes.
Okay, so this is
So
my point.
I'm asking how wealth is created and how you'd explain it to the layman.
Well, this is my point.
Yeah.
Catalactics is defined as what somebody's willing to pay for something. That glass of water in the desert in July and I haven't drank for a day is worth a crap load of money. Yeah. It's always, supply demand kind of thing. So catalactics is not necessarily, it's like an individual representation, not this general whatever the hell the Fed says. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. So when you talk about this in your book and you're trying to explain to people, why they should care, what is the mechanism by which their life is going to be better and what policies, and you're right, they just don't care, or they don't know, or they not.
Well, what people need to know, though, a lot of the liberals who think that their lives are going to be made better from government, right, from getting more government to give them stuff. Yeah, those people need to understand that prosperity doesn't come from government. It comes from the free enterprise. It comes from individuals and entrepreneurs and capitalism. And so the more capitalism we have, the more prosperity there's going to be. And that's the chance. I mean, if you're going to just look to government thinking government's going to be the source of your prosperity, then you're not going to prosper. You're going to be, you're just going to be trapped in poverty. That you might get some crumbs from the government, but that's all you're going to get. If you want real prosperity, it's going to come from a market-based economy.
Well, see, this is what our thing was.
You need to have limited government.
Well, this is what our discussion last night was about. One of the discussion leader came up, and his whole point, he had a menu. On the first day you want this entree, side and drink, and next day, and kind of figured it out. And the point that he was making is that all these socialists, they say, well, it'll adjust in preferences, and we'll get what we want, and he goes, there was no majority on anything. Everybody's pissed off. You got, a small 15% of the people got what they wanted. If you went by even choosing it, that's not how it works. It has to be a free market-based thing. And that was the point that he was making, and I think he did a good job at it. All right, here we're coming back. Here we go.
Chat 24/7 at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
Freedom is the answer. What's the question?
I want to break free.
You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
I want to break free.
Ba-rum.
I want to break free from your lies.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. Well, that's what we do, and that's definitely when you think of that, you think of Peter Schiff. You go and Europack.com to save that money. And he's got the a gold thing too for you. It says, hey, you want to do some gold? Well, I'm not going to rip you off. Come over here. Now, this is what Peter Schiff is known for, and he's going to be asked right now in the last segment of, is that when's it going to happen, Peter? What are we looking for? But you keep saying, and it keeps getting worse, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, I'm going, this is not it. This is just shows that it can happen. Well, the it is going to be, when this goes the next time, are they, they always yank something out of their butt. Are they going to be able to paper it over? Are they going to be able to exchange bank holiday and green for purple money? Are they going to, do combine with the BRICS and we're all going to be kumbaya and China will save us some crap? I have no idea. But what's on the table? What do you think might happen?
Well, look, as far as when is it going to happen? It's going to happen. Just assume like it's going to happen tomorrow and just get prepared. And if you're early, I mean, either you're early or you're late. Nobody's going to be just in time. Maybe there'll be the guy that gets lucky and does it just in time, right? He stays at the party just in time and he gets out right before the cops get there to break it up. But if I know the cops are coming, I don't know what time it is. Look, I'm just going to get the hell out. Why take my chances, right? I mean, I think you want to prepare. Right, and if you're early, well, then you're going to be early because that's just the only way to do it. Because I said it's either you're early or you're late. And
well, early
late,
doing what?
Then it's too late.
What, calling Europack?
Well, get out of the U.S. bond market. Certainly, the stock market. They're going to go down. I mean, if you're investing for the long run, you're not going to have anything in the long run. If you're in these overpriced assets, then you're in a currency that's going to get destroyed when the music stops. So
when we first met you in
foreign
05,
stocks and precious metals.
in '05 or so, I think it was about '05, when you first gave the presentation at Freedom Summit, and you said exactly this. If they took your advice, which some people did, worked with you, and they go, boom, thank you very much, and explain this.
Well, it depends, because in the dollar, see, I was telling people to get out of the dollar. The dollar went up after the financial crisis. So, that trade didn't work. The only trade that I did that worked was telling people to sell their homes and to short the subprime market. That trade made a fortune. But
no, that's the one that they did. I want to talk about now before we run out of time, Peter. I want to talk about that before we run out of time. There was what you were saying is that you needed, it was something like this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you were saying, look, man, this is what we're doing. We know this subprime thing is going. So we need, I don't know, something like $25 million or something to be able to buy a seat, to be able to do the options, to be able to buy and sell short, the yada, 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 which you did. And then everybody's going, woohoo, all these, hedges or these index, these derivatives and so on. They have on $10 million to buy this position is worth $100 million, and it goes to 40 to 50. Time to get out. No, let's ride it all the way. It's worth it. And you're going, no, the money's not there. We got to get out now. And then they held on, and finally you just said, screw it. You sold out, made everybody a bunch of money, and you're good. How far off am I?
Well, I'm not really sure I understood that.
Okay. Did you have position you opened to do
the trade that made money was betting against the banks, betting against the mortgages, because those things collapsed. See, what I got wrong is I expected that collapse to have more pronounced consequences on the U.S. dollar. I thought when the government came to the rescue by printing all this money and slashing interest rates, that the dollar would go down. Instead, the dollar went up because it had fallen to a record low leading up to the crisis. And, of course, I was telling people get out of the dollar in 2003, 4, 5, 6, and the dollar was falling the whole time. So anybody that took my advice early on, they were making a ton of money as gold went from 300 to 1,000 and silver went from $4, to $15, 12, wherever it was at that time. We were making a lot of money. Oil went from $20 to $140. So I was killing it, shorting the dollar, buying commodities, buying gold, buying emerging markets. But when 2008 came, we were so far ahead in that trade that instead of the dollar continuing to fall, it actually reversed. But now is that trade's going to pay off. Now I think the people who invested with me in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, who have been underperforming the U.S. stock market because we've had a bubble there and we've had the dollar that's gone up, I think over the next few years is when that trade's going to pay off. And I think the people who have been patiently staying out of the market and staying out of the dollar, right now they're not on paper, they're not as well off as the people who are in the bubble and have no idea that they're about to get wiped out. But we're going to get paid on this trade. I mean, my confidence level is extremely high that I got this right.
Okay, trade of what? That the dollar is going to take a dump?
Of being in foreign stocks instead of U.S. stocks, being in commodities, being in gold, being in gold stocks. We haven't been paid yet for that. The people who are in the U.S. stock market, who have been in the U.S. stock market for the last decade, have made more money, right? Going back to 2008, if you just went all in U.S. stocks, right? If you didn't even know the financial crisis was coming, and in the middle of '08, you just put all your money in U.S. stocks and went to sleep, right? You're better off today than people who put their money in gold stocks or foreign stocks or precious metals, right? The people who knew there was a problem are worse off than the people who didn't. But that's not going to persist. That's going to change. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, the one thing I did want to get on the subprime, didn't you make bank on the subprime? You had a fund
and that was in 2007. But that was a trade. That wasn't like and of course, most of my clients couldn't do that. You had to have a lot of money to get into the hedge fund. It was for accredited investors, high net worth investors, and I think the minimum investment was $100,000. But even then, we didn't that was small. So a lot of people couldn't do that trade, No,
I know some people that made out, and collective thank you. It wasn't me, but I mean, they.
Yeah, I would have made more money had I gone all in on that trade. I didn't. I just did it with some money. I didn't go all in because I outsmarted myself. I expected the dollar to crash, gold to go up, so I wanted to have some money there, right? I should have just made an all or nothing bet. which is what some of these guys did in that movie. They just like loaded up their clients, and a lot of them they made money because they were, they had all they're getting a 2 and 20, so they had a lot of money for.
Okay, so this time,
they were real levered.
What's different now? You're saying, well, the dollar's but it's going up again. I'm going.
Well, the only thing that's
different comparison to everything else. What?
The only thing that's different is the bubble is so much bigger, and the Fed has already shot, the arrows from its quiver. We have a $23 trillion debt, not a $7 trillion debt. We have a $4 trillion balance sheet, not a $800 billion balance sheet. So the Fed is already deep into this thing. And so to try to go back to those policies again from where we are right now, it's like if you're totally sober and you have a few drinks, okay, well, but what if you're already drunk and then you start to have some more? We've got so much drugs in the system right now that we get an overdose if we try to take more of it. That's where we are. We're close to that, and the dollar's going to be the casualty. And
now, this is one thing you look at
down with it.
You look at the BRICS and around the world and the country, and they duplicating the IMF and the World Bank and the international settlements and blah 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 blah. And everybody, it's competition. You got crypto, it's competition. Well, I got GoldmanSachs.gov coin coming, Libra, and everybody talking about they're going to do, and it's just going to be central bank compliant. You have the BRICS, they're just negotiating, in my mind, for a seat at the big mahogany table, and we want our leatherback chair right here. And I'm going, is there any real competition in this system? Do you see it other than precious metals?
Well, no, real money is the competition to the central banks. I mean, right now, it used to be that, let me be in the Swiss franc, right? That's safe, but the Swiss bankers are doing the same thing. They got negative interest rates, so there are no central banks that are really offering a sound alternative. I mean, I still think, yes, I'd rather own the Swiss franc than the dollar. I'd rather own the Singapore dollar. I'd rather own the New Zealand dollar. I'd rather own the Norwegian krone. I mean, there are currencies that if you said, hey, you got to own currencies, okay, I'm going to pick these currencies, but gold to me is shining so much brighter right now than any of these currencies. So that is the real competition. It's fake money, fiat money versus real money, which is gold. Now, these cryptocurrencies, they're part of the fake money, right? They're not real money either. So people are making a mistake if they think, the government is creating fiat money, so I'm going to buy Bitcoin. Well, that's a fiat cryptocurrency. There's no tangible value there. There's
okay. Now you say gold simply because it's more portable and condensed and kind of I can put it in my shoe or whatever. But you think the potential upside on silver is probably better?
Yeah, I mean it usually is. I mean if gold goes to 5,000, silver is going to be 200. I don't know. I mean, but silver is going to have a bigger move percentage wise. I think. We'll see. I mean, it always has in the past. I mean, that doesn't guarantee that it will again. But, history tends to repeat itself.
It's just that my mindset is I got a little money. A good friend, Boston Tea Party, is visiting. He does the big gun show in December here in Arizona, the Crossroads. Thousands of tables. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people go to this thing. So I'm going, I already got that, and I don't need that, and maybe I get a little of that. And I go, all right, I need maybe a little bit of ammo here or something. I just go and say, yo, what's up, and see people. And the first thing I did is there's always a silver guy, precious metals guys there. And the first thing I did, I'll take that 10-ounce bar right there. Because it was, it was only like $1 over spot, if that, And I'm going, boom. And I felt like that was my big purchase. It came out with, and it's going to go up within the next year or two to pay for all the other stuff I got. So I'm really, I warmed myself by the silver little pile I got. And and my kids, we would give them little 10 ounces in their stockings. They thought it was an iPod. They're like, what the heck is that? I go, you'll thank me later. Well, when it went to 40-something, they're like, whoa, what? Yeah, you just keep that. It'll get stupid. What do you think is the top end ounce of silver? Would it surprise you? It hits $100 the next couple of years?
There is no top because there is no bottom to the dollar.
There you go.
Right? There's no limit to how. If we have hyperinflation, then it doesn't even matter what the price is. Right? I mean, because if the dollar has no value, then there's no amount of dollars that you would accept in exchange for your silver or anything else for that matter. So people have to realize that the stakes are very high here. We don't know how much value the dollar is going to lose. Maybe it'll only lose half its value. Maybe it'll only lose 80% of its value, 90% of its value, although there's a big difference between losing 90% and losing half. But what if it loses 99% of its value? We don't know how bad this is going to get.
Well, they're
We just
freaking
know that it's gonna
Zimbabwe
get
printing.
bad.
I mean, damn. So is there any competing currency? Is the, renminbi, a thing, a ruble, a yen, something? Is there anything out there that doesn't have exactly the same problem for the same reasons as bad?
No, they don't have the exact same problems. But look, the competition is gold because what's going to happen is when the dollar tanks, foreign central banks are going to be using gold as a primary reserve, just like they used to before they were using the dollar.
Well, they're loading up
Gold's a
now.
monetary asset.
Everybody's repatriating their gold now. Everybody wants
Yeah,
to.
they're getting ready. They're getting ready for the return to the gold standard.
Really? Is that you think what's going to happen? Or are they going to atomize it, kind of
That
literally
always happens.
a dry
Why do you
martini?
think gold's been money for 5,000 years? It's like we're not. We're going to be back on a gold standard. Just a question of time.
Well, they go to Putin. They say you're so antiquated. You are getting so much gold. China, you're so dumb. You're getting so much gold. You're so India. You're so dumb. You're using gold. You're so dumb. And they're just sitting there going, "What are you? You're so stupid." So
Yeah, the golden rule is he who has the gold makes the rules. So we're
Well,
getting the gold.
We're at the end of the show.
All right.
Peter, thank you very much. I know you're going to be, vindicated if that, whatever again. Are the cable news, they're ready to call Peter? They're waiting for the crash and then they'll let you do a
Well,
victory
they
lap?
have once in a while, but look, the best way to hear me is on my own podcast, the Peter Schiff Show, schiffradio.com, or go to my YouTube channel and just, I'm putting out content every week, some videos, audio stuff. So just go directly to me, follow me on Twitter, friend me on Facebook. I'm always, every day I'm putting out information.
And these guys, are you going to give them a chance, or you just go, when next time you're on, they, them, those television, you're going to slap them around? Or are you trying to make nice with them?
Well, when I get invited on, I, do my best to get the information out there. So
Yeah, slap them a little bit, just a little bit.
All right.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
The Mind Unleashed reports that during a recent meeting, Kaplan told members of the city council that she has already been in contact with cruise ship companies about the possibility of using their vessels for emergency housing for the city's homeless. Kaplan suggested that the ship could work similarly to the Queen Mary in Long Beach, a large old ship that is now docked in the harbor, acting as a hotel for tourists and other visitors to the area. Many members of the council are on board with the proposal, but it would need to be approved by the Port of Oakland, and they seem reluctant to allow such a cruise ship to dock in their port for an extended period of time. Mike Zampa, a spokesman for the port, told the Chronicle that Oakland's port was designed for cargo ships, not cruise ships. Oakland has seen a huge spike in homelessness over the past 2 years, with the number of people on the street rising from 1,902 to 3,210. For years, professional athletes have been subjected to drug tests that screen for cannabis. The Major League Baseball organization has now announced their new drug testing policies and associated penalties. Until now, the MLB was one of the few major sporting leagues that did not test its players for recreational drugs. While they did have an official list of banned substances for many years, they only actually tested their players for performance-enhancing drugs. The Mind Unleashed reports that's all going to change this year when they begin to test their players for cocaine and opiates. However, the league says that cannabis will be removed from their list of banned drugs and will be considered a recreational substance like alcohol. One ironic twist is that synthetic cannabis compounds will be screened for and treated as an abusive substance, as such chemicals have been known to be very harmful. Support for the Liberty Beat comes from the Conscious Resistance Network, featuring videos, news reports, and articles from a spiritual anarchist perspective. Experience the Conscious Resistance at theconsciousresistance.com. How would you like to have your business featured on the Liberty Beat? You can just send an email to libertybeat@snls.news for details. This is the Liberty Beat, Produced in partnership with SNOS News and listeners like you. The Liberty Beat is online at libertybeat.news and snls.news. I'm Mick Murrow reporting for the Liberty Beat, reminding you, spread liberty with a smile.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Sources are confirming your dog died earlier today, and we're all really sorry you had to find out about it like this, buddy. Though it's a lousy thing to have to learn from an online web video, and even shittier to hear from a cold-hardened newsman's voice that you can't put a face to, your pet passed away in his sleep while you went out today, and we understand how shocked you must be right now. Sources added that there are many local shelters with animals in need of a good home, though we understand that no dog can ever truly replace the one you just lost. I lost a dog once, but my mom was the one who told me about it, and she was quite the comfort. In this week's op-ed pages, Pantene CEO Marcus Russo laments feeling like the only one who gives a shit about rich, lustrous hair. In other news, a study finds that newborn infants can tell if their parents are losers. A man who just assembled a desk is unsure how he has every screw left over. And Jeff Beck is lured into a dark alley with the old guitar pick on a string trick. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Today, let us make them remember. We are not afraid!
Yep. Well, welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona, from the beautiful studios of Freedom's with an Ass, freedomsphoenix.com. See, don't you like that? Come on. All right. We got Peter Schiff pictures up there still. Let me pull those down and put up Keith Knight. All right, Keith, go ahead and introduce yourself while I do this.
So, my name is Keith. I run the Don't Tread on Anyone YouTube channel. I'm also on BitChute. For heaven's sake, I wish more people would subscribe to that BitChute channel just because I'm walking on thin ice with YouTube. They're dropping people like crazy for ridiculous reasons. Susan Wojcicki was just on 60 Minutes talking to Leslie Stahl about, how they're policing thought crimes. And she said, well, if someone advocates discrimination or something, then we'd take them down. It's like, okay, does that apply to affirmative action? You have people advocating for wars that kill millions. You have people advocating theft like crazy and lowering interest rates, which causes recessions. Like, how is none of this a violation of your terms of service? So it's obviously just selective, subjective nonsense to get people taken down. I basically do videos. I'm starting a new series on book summaries. So the most important books on libertarianism I come across, I try to summarize them because I know people got lives to live, and if everyone was obsessed with politics as I was, we wouldn't have food or technology or anything good. So I try to summarize it and save people some time on that stuff.
Well, this is one thing. I've known Keith for a couple of years or something. You started your own YouTube channel just to you get a lot of the guys on. I mean, Corbett enjoys going on your show. You Larkin Rose, you bring a bunch of, and you do a lot of these different series, and you do a lot of research. And you've been coming to the economic discussion group, and you got the average age there is 60 or something, and you're 23. Come on, say it.
I am, yeah.
You're youngin'. When I find, and you,
the reason I don't go around advertising it is it's the ultimate trump card for anyone else to. You really don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you read a hell of a lot more than I have on this stuff, so I give you that. So this is, but it's also from. I loved when I was young. I got to ask all the stupid questions I wanted to. And then I kind of get a beat on stuff. And you started early, so I'm encouraging, that one, that you're even there and people like you and you have this interest. So when you ask Peter Schiff off air, in the archive, you go, what was the question you asked him?
So I asked him how he would communicate to the layman how an economy grows.
And his was like, I don't care, buy my book. They want to know, just read damn book.
Long story short, I asked him for his thesis, which, from what I understand, most authors can give. But maybe I didn't word it correctly. I'm open to the fact that I was wrong about that.
Well, he was looking for, Peter Schiff said, kind of thing. And Peter, we were talking about, higher end lot stuff and everything. And, Keith came in, he just wanted, talk to Peter Schiff because, damn, I get to talk to Peter Schiff.
Well, I remember the moment that I was reading that book, How an Economy Grows and Why It Crashes. I was sitting on the couch at my dad's place, and it just all fell in line for me as to how that.
Well, that's how you should have prefaced
happened.
it. You should have buttered him up and told him that story, and he'd ooze all over it.
Sure. Well, just because it had always been, well, what happened was, the bankers got greedy. And then there was a crash. It's like, oh, really? Well, were they not greedy before? Is there not greed in other sectors? Why does the
well, you read the book. What do you think he should have said? What would have been a summary for you?
The problem was this was so long ago. It was before I started taking notes. What I generally think is that when you have the ability to postpone consumption and not everything you catch you eat or consume, then you're able to use those items to build capital stock to create more goods in the future. So instead of getting a fish and eating it, you're, building a bow or a bigger net so you can catch more fish.
Or you're breeding them.
So by postponing consumption, you're allowed to acquire capital, which allows you to meet consumer demand on a higher level with higher productivity over time. Something along the lines of that. Something along the lines of, well, when people are free and they have property rights, they have the freedom to make more voluntary exchanges, which increases their satisfaction, which makes them wealthier. So that is how freedom leads to a wealthier, healthier society.
Yeah,
or it gives people the possibility.
I know. It was like a wrench in the middle of a conversation. We're talking the repo market, the Federal Reserve, the banking of the dollar, kind of, and then all of a sudden we're back to kindergarten. And I'm going, which is important, and a lot of the stuff that we were talking about in our discussion at the group last night, I understand. But I could see from Peter's perspective, man, he's at the end game of some big gazillions of dollar money.
I get that he's at the end game, but what percentage of people know such an important question? That's the problem with the leftist narrative. They got 50,000 ways, ideas on how to violently transfer money and how to distribute the wealth and all this stuff. They have no clue how wealth is created. So the fact that we don't have, a quick few lines to get out there of here's what we need to explain to socialists, why some countries are wealthy and some are poor, I thought that would be a good opportunity to ask him.
All right. Sorry it didn't work out for you.
No problem at all. I'm so grateful that I got to be on and sit in on it.
Well, this discussion that we had last night, what did the young man get from that? And describe what happened last night. I don't know if you know all the guys. This discussion group's been around for decades. And it was called the Leonard Reed Economic Discussion Group. Now it's the Chet Anderson Leonard Reed Economic Discussion Group because Chet Anderson is a gentleman, guy in his mid-90s that finally passed away. And he was a great guy. And he was they're all about this, light the candle, pierce the darkness kind of thing. And it was an economic discussion group on this kind of stuff. And a lot of these guys are business owners, high net worth, own a lot of something, they got some money. They are think tank people, even lobbyists, representatives from the Goldwater Institute and Cato and Institute for Justice, and you have doctors and lawyers, judges. I mean, these guys they know, but they don't really know a lot of things. It's kind of certainly I'm one of the black sheep there. No, not Ernie. The black sheep. He'll infect them, and then there's another 2 or 3 or 4. Now they're you could see it just pulling them over the years this way, and then I laid it on them last night, and I go, oh, and we're going to do this vaccine thing. Oh, batshit crazy Ernie again, And then, but there's a few people are going, yeah, this is, if you don't know, you need to know more about, Ernie's probably right on. So it's that kind of group. And I enjoy it. They're nice guys, but they're still want their invitation to the Republican machine Christmas party. I mean, it's kind of, you just feel it, So but they understand libertarian philosophy. They are libertarian. They're anarcho-capitalists. They're, up to a point. I mean, it's kind of, they see hardcore principle almost as a fault, And so it's just entertaining to me, but there's a few of them that are really close friends that I've been in this known for 30 years, and they do some ass whipping. The only reason I was invited, or I'm on their list, is because Chet Anderson wanted me to be, and the original guy that founded it. And a lot of the other people, they're going, Ernie? Do we got to vote here? I mean, that kind of thing. So it's been interesting. And Keith goes, are you did you get, bona fide list stuff? I mean, how does it, you just go or what?
Oh, yeah, I'm on the list.
On the list at 23, you win, man. Because we'll talk about it more what the presentation last night was.
From the first letter of Dr. Idris Barber, I've healed many landlubbers, but could have healed countless more if they were willing to break the law to preserve themselves. The Crown required that I obey leeching privateers who didn't share my oath to do no harm. I was forbidden from discussing the treatments I knew patients needed. The Crown claims to protect landlubbers from bankrupting medical expenses, but only seduces them into begging for relief, while privateers monopolize the management of chronic illness. This royal alliance has constructed a medical hegemony that denies science, discredits alternative remedies, and mandates unwanted treatments, while callously ignoring the victims dying on waiting lists. They have produced a society increasingly addicted, impoverished, diseased, and suicidal. My conscientious objections and medical ambitions required not only seeing this cage, but leaving it. That's why I raised my black banner. Among pirates, the Crown's tantrums are irrelevant. You own your body without qualification. Open ocean medicine enables healers and customers to build a relationship of mutual consent. Prices decrease, quality increases, and physicians become as accessible as barbers. Customers determine their own medical care, whether that's experimental treatments, prohibited plants, controversial procedures, bootleg pharmaceuticals, or even the right to die. Any system of command and control is rejected. In time, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, genetic engineering, and cybernetic prosthetics could take the human condition beyond our imagination. Medical augmentation could eliminate aging, enhance intelligence, and erase our fundamental physical limitations. With the Crown in our wake and the individual at the helm, we are free to pursue an unfettered life. Need decentralized solutions to centralized problems? Join the conversation at pirateswithoutborders.com.
Why did you move to the...
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Did you know you can listen to LRN.FM via our free-to-air satellite channels? We have channels over nearly all of North America and much of Africa. All you need is an affordable receiver and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you are a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage maps and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm. sat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's
the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Live video of our key New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
To be a part of the show, call 602-264-2800. 602-264-2800. And now, Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence. Keith Knight in. Don't tread on anyone. Quit banging the mic, man.
My bad.
This is a... it's interesting to have a young man like that to give some new blood into the group. I used to be the young guy. I was always the kid. And these guys were like my age now, or maybe even a little bit younger. And 30 years later, and all of a sudden, boom, man, they're like getting up there. And you have guys like Alan Corwin, he writes a lot of gun books and everything. He's always there. He just turned 70. So he's just like going, I don't know, man, if I can keep, doing all the, this stuff. And so it's interesting to have the young guys come in. What happened? Well, tell the story how you started going to the event.
Well, I went to, I forget what it's called. I think it was that Arizona event where you were there, Nick Sarwark was there, David Friedman was there.
The Freedom Summit.
Is that what that was?
Yeah,
okay.
That's our Freedom Summit.
Okay, yeah. So I met Nick Sarwark at the Freedom Summit. He invited me to the group. I spoke with another guy there, David Dorn, who said, hey, we need a speaker. Do you have any topics? I said, I'll make the 30-minute case for anarchism that I can to try to move the minarchists a little to the correct position. So after I gave my speech, they invited me to become a permanent member there.
And the way it used to work is before the internet. Chet, until he died, it was like in 9 around in there. So it was.
And who was this guy, and what is he known for?
Chet was a retired, wealthy guy that was here. That was hardcore libertarian back in the day. Leonard Reed guy. Has been around, and it was. He started this thing, I think, in the late 70s or something, early 80s. And it used to meet at, different places. It's a nice place. It's called the University Club downtown. It's a nice, kind of a meeting place thing. It's, it's a nice place. And so everybody's, the hobnobs of the they, them, those. And it was to discuss Austrian economics. That was really what it was about. It was freedom, anarchism kind of thing. But it had a lot of... and the people that would go in there, you'd have, kind of the Cato guys, the Goldwater guys, the, politicos, the lobbyists, the lawyers and doctors, and it just kind of grew from that. But it kind of lost its anarchy, kind of thing there for a while. But there were some guys like Randy and David that had you come. That's who you're talking about. David, they're the anarchists. Okay, they kind of it's they're Ernies. Kind of maybe quieter, but they're Ernies. So when they had you come and you did a presentation on a case for anarchism, and they're like, thank God, another one. We need You are allowed to come, that kind of thing. But it was, but it kind of, the trail got blazed for the hardcore anarchist, voluntarist, that libertarian thing, with me. And the reason is because Chet was a big Ron Paul fan. And he wanted to know, and he would do what he would do is you gave him 12 or 9, I think, because they took the summer off or something. But you gave him like a year's worth of envelopes, self-addressed, stamped envelopes, and he would type up whatever the programs, like you get, from Roy, the email. It would be on paper. Oh my God, they use paper, and you would get it in the mail, And it would be, this is what the subject is, and we're expected to do a little bit of research on it, have something, to contribute on the subject, and you just have like a discussion leader, which is, sometimes they bring people in like you, but usually it's from the people there. Like Rich Stevens, which is a lawyer and does a lot of work with Jews for Preservation of Firearm Ownership, where a lot of people know him from. Rich Stevens, he's, in a lot of documentaries, books, he did the presentation last night on, I don't know, what do you call it?
The socialist calculation problem.
Yeah, what he was doing is he passed out menus, and you just select your morning menu and your evening menu. And his wife was there to kind of total and count them up. And the point that he was making is, in this socialist utopia everybody wants to have. And he goes, okay, well, how do you get what you want? Well, I vote. I want. He goes, all right, well, let's do it. We're going to find out what everybody's going to eat. And he goes, you got 17% that got what they wanted. If you do this central planning kind of thing, that's just how it works. It's not going to work. You need to have a robust market, that yada, yada, yada. So that was kind of the point that he was making, and he had a visual aid for using at the Christmas dinner table. I mean, that's what this was, in prep for pissing off your relatives. So so it was a good way of doing it. Just kind of, you make the point, and you go, well, you're not going to get what you want if you do it this way. It needs to be a free market. Free markets is the only thing that gets you what you want, because you paid for it, and it didn't cost that much. I mean, this is how you get what you want. So that was the point that he was making. Well, what happened is that Keith came and gave a presentation. They're like, you are allowed to come. We get you on the list, the email list. And it's a lot easier now, because before, I remember I had years, I had those envelopes. I just never gave them to Chet. I had them. We set them, they were in my desk for a couple of years or something. And finally, because I'm just whatever. And I went to him one day, I go, here they are, Chet, just send me the things. All right, cool, we're done. Roy goes, he I'm sorry, we're kind of full up, and we're just out here, and we're uninvited, and you're not allowed. They actually did this, okay? And I go, okay, well, I'm sorry to, Chet had asked me for this long time. I just go, okay, no biggie. Because a lot of times I even would speak, or they would have, as a guest, they'd have me come. Well, then Chet just went ballistic on him. Are you freaking kidding me? That's because he wanted me to keep him up on the Ron Paul evolution during 7 to 8 thing. But he wouldn't do it email. I could send him all kinds of links, and he goes, no, I want you to print it out. So I printed out this inch-thick thing of me covering and articles on and all the stuff. And he was like, oh, this is it. And before he died, he saw the manifestation of everything that he was trying to get to. So he was so satisfied that this happened with a 70-something-year-old guy that, he knew Ron from back in the day. And he was definitely Ernie. Well, Roy's kind of this Republican. We don't. You're a little too anarchist. Well, he's kind of once that was broken, then the floodgates happened.
Well, how did Roy inherit the throne?
Because he had David's position. He was a scheduler guy, so it kind of just naturally just went to him. When Chet went, Roy just kind of moved up, and then there's David. Now David is a good friend, hardcore anarchist type of whatever.
Sure.
But so when it'll be around. It's amazing this thing has been around as long as it has, and because it's very informative, it's a nice social function. And the one thing, and I gave the presentation last month. Were you there when I did that?
I was, yeah.
On the pirate thing,
interplanetary file sharing.
Yeah, we talked about that too. But
yeah, and I brought Larkin Rose.
Right, and Larkin was there. So and David is always pimping Larkin's book, Most Dangerous Superstition. And for that, and these guys start reading that, and then Larkin be there, and everything. You can see how Roy's losing the battle, man. It's not going well, Yeah. So, but he's cool about it, whatever. But keep in mind, Roy became co-chair with Senator Karen Johnson for the 2008 campaign, the state chair for Ron Paul's campaign here in Arizona. But when he went to the convention, he wound up voting as a delegate for McCain. So he's always still been a McCain, kind of the Republican Party thing,
Well, they were in the Vietnam War together. I guess I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he was a pilot. I think he was a colonel or something, a pilot, doing something. So it's an interesting group.
There is no such thing as attention span, according to Jerry Seinfeld, who figures that people have an infinite attention span if you are entertaining them. Hey, he's kept us from channel surfing for several decades, and now he's making more millions as a Las Vegas headliner. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're looking for work. So choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Avoid redundancies such as added bonus, advance warning, end result, prior history, or personal belongings. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Free Talk Live.
We need to legalize the animal trade. The illegal bird trade causes the death of hundreds of thousands of birds. Do you know why that hundreds of thousands of birds are dying?
Why don't you tell me?
The reason these birds are dying is because it's illegal. They have to pack in multiple birds into whatever it is that they're transporting them in. And
one would think.
When they get across the border and they open up the package, you can damn well bet some of those birds have expired.
Yes.
So there's a certain percentage rate that just don't make it through. And that's where this number comes from, this hundreds of thousands of birds dying every year because of the illegal bird trade. Now, if it wasn't for the people demanding them, obviously nobody would be bringing them in. So there's people in this country that are demanding birds just like people are demanding cocaine in this country. So the idea that we can stop the bird trade is just as asinine that we can stop the war on drugs. We have a war on birds in this country. They just don't talk about it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What do you shop for that you could otherwise buy at Amazon? Pretty much everything, right? Amazon has competitive pricing and they deliver, and that's a big plus. If you could plan ahead in your shopping, would you be interested in saving up to 33%? There's a catch. You have to do your shopping in Bitcoin. But imagine those savings. It's like a huge raise. All you have to do is go to saveitpurse.com. We've saved thousands, and you can too. Plan ahead and save. Saveitpurse.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
The political world is a maddening cesspool of corruption and lies. Nobody tells the truth. Nobody keeps campaign promises. Nobody obeys the Constitution. Nobody puts the people first. How can we ever escape this web of tyranny? Vote for nobody.
Hi, my name is Nolan. I'm running for governor of New Hampshire because nobody knows how to live your life better than you do, and nobody deserves that kind of power. I want to put you back in control of your money, your lifestyle, your work, your body, and your life. Nobody should rule you but you. New Hampshire convicts many people of so-called crimes that should never have been prosecuted. If elected, I will pardon every victimless crime in New Hampshire history. This includes drug, gambling, prostitution, gun, and driving offenses. Nobody should have a criminal record when they have not harmed anybody.
Wouldn't it be nice to have nobody telling you what to do? Learn more at electnobody.com. electnobody.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
There are those that just want to be left alone, and those that just won't leave them alone. Which one are you? The Ernest Hancock Show.
Oh, somebody dropping a bomb somewhere. Oh, there's another one. Well, we got, you know what we haven't talked about? I'll tell you what we haven't talked about. We should talk about and Trump got impeached last night, and we're done because I don't care. So anyway, because I mean, you know, whatever. So this group that Keith is going to influence for, you know, the rest of his life. It's interesting that it has made this turn. And the reason is because it's so obvious. And a lot of the guys, one of the lobbyists there, he represents the American for Prosperity thing, or did, and then Tom that was there, and he's written a book, and it's like 1,000 pages. And he's going to send a PDF to all of us. We get to read and help him. And I'm going, wow, man, we need a meat cleaver to this thing.
I know. So Tom and I have been friends for a while. So I said, oh gosh, he sent me this thing. Fine, I guess I'll push through it and prioritize reading it for him. By page, I think 4 or 5, I was totally hooked. It's really, really.
Oh, you
cool.
did get it?
Yeah.
When? When did you get it?
Week ago or so.
So how far are you into it?
I got 28 pages in. And that is with me taking 3 pages of notes. So,
oh my God.
So I'm gonna have
Your
to really
book is
slow
the
down.
book on the book.
So, well, yeah. Tom and I have some differences.
It's like
about
Tragedy and Hope 101.
Oh no, it's funny because I cited Tragedy and Hope 101. He goes, nah, well, I don't want to spoil it or anything because he is definitely going to get this one published. But it was a lot of linking to certain things that I thought, and then I'd go on sort of a research tangent. I went on
it's a novel, right?
Tangent.
Well, what's the story?
It is, yeah.
Well, what's the story? Who's the hero? How many heroes are there? Is there Jack Ryan? I mean, you know what?
There's 2 villains as far as at this point. I'm so early in it. It's about a grandpa teaching his young legislator child how the world really works, and it's through the eyes of someone being an honest politician. And the honest part is, look, there are people who rule, who operate violently, and subjects, people who have to abide by the rules. So we, being in the ruler group of people, here's how we do things, and then it just goes from there. And he goes on.
Well,
every
Tom would
single
know.
topic.
Tom is at the, he started, as a young guy doing the Cato thing, and then he, was a communication director for the Golder Institute.
Yeah.
And then he went to, did some school thing. He's in the Coctopus sphere. I mean, he's one of those guys, okay?
He's got friends there, but by God, we need someone in there, to talk in some sense.
He's
into
definitely, I remember when the TARP happened, that's when he and the one thing that I like about Tom, he's one of them, those. I mean, he's definitely, cog in the machine of whatever the hell Coke thing. And, but he's never lied to me. I mean, he's always been upfront. Yeah, well, this is what I do. He used to wear around his neck on a chain, like he had dog tags. He had a chain, and on it was like a 3-inch, it wasn't small, it was a square about the size of the palm of your hand of AstroTurf. And he goes, because of grassroots, he goes, hey, man, you want the appearance of grassroots? I got your AstroTurf right here. It was a marketing thing. He goes, yeah right, you need a crowd? I'm your crowd getter guy. You want some AstroTurf? I'm your guy, okay? Now, when he did the first Tea Party meeting here right after the Revolution at the Arizona State Capitol. Had KFYI talk show host there, congressman, everybody's all there, and of course you have to have Ernie do the spiel because it's Ron Paul Tea Party, whatever the hell, give credibility to something. And I get up there and they got behind me all this fair tax and all this other crap. I go, I just want to make, first thing I say, I just want to make it clear, I'm not with any of these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I go, just right up front, I don't have nothing to do, but let me tell you what's going to happen. And what happened is John Shadegg, congressman here, brought back the TARP. I mean, they voted no, and then within days it came back. But to get it to come back, you have to have a congressman that voted against it to bring it back. That's one of the rules on how they can do it or something. So John Shadegg drew the short straw, and he's like the guy. Well, he was going to run for Congress again. I had run against him 3 times. Yeah, he was my congressional target. Well, I've known him from back in the day, and it's a long story, but what happened was he gets up and he goes, and from the crowd they're yelling, "Hey, you did a TARP?" And I go, "Oh, no, I never. I would not." He was sitting, I'm going, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Some of the activists, we had done these big 4x8 signs that said, "Nationalization of the economy isn't fascist when I do it, John S.S. Shadegg." Kind of had the SS thing.
Funny.
So we had hundreds of those everywhere, all over. Goldwater Institute had their 20th or 25th anniversary party at the Arizona Biltmore. I was inside while the activists were outside with those signs. They were freaking. This TARP thing, they needed to do it. And Tom was one of the guys on the crew. You get this passed or you guys don't have a job anymore.
Well, Tom has said that he never supported that, so we got to get him on there.
So this is, yeah, right.
Well, we mentioned
no, they go to Ernie and
said,
said, Ernie, if we don't do this, the economy's going. I'm going, I know, I don't care. You know, that's I'm like, well, come on. I go, I am going to tattoo Shattuck's ass with a swastika. He ain't never run again, and he dropped out.
Well,
and the reason, let me finish.
Okay.
And the reason is because when he said all this BS, everybody knew. We made sure they knew. But what happens? He gets to be a senior fellow of the Goldwater Institute. And I go to these guys and I said, what the hell was that? He nationally socialized the economy. He brings in the TARP. And all of a sudden he's a Goldwater fellow. Of what the hell was that? And they just rub their fingers together like, it's the money. And I go, all right, just as long as we're up front. Now, Tom has been a really good source of information and history, a lot of things. He's a really smart guy, well-read. And a lobbyist at the state, federal level, this is his freaking wheelhouse. He knows exactly how it's done. And he wrote a book about it. So I'm looking forward to this book. I'll get a copy.
Oh, yeah.
I think Roy, I might have an email now. You're going to send it out to everybody today. But I'm just going, so how many pages? You're only 30 pages in or something? How far?
Yeah. But it's just really interesting the way he communicates. There's this, Tom Woods has a joke. If there was some big grand conspiracy, how would things look any different? I mean, we're lied into wars. The liars control the education system. They force you to fund it. You can't opt out of it. They say anything you want to put in your body has to go through one of our groups called the FDA group. And if they haven't given it their stamp of approval, we're going to put you in a cage and shoot you if you resist. If you try selling
hell,
without
if you resist not wanting to take their stuff.
Well, you and I just heard a story last night from a guy in the group who was trading Bitcoin for cash without a license, and the DEA saw it was in their jurisdiction because it was money that potentially could have been used to traffic drugs.
Peter Steinmetz.
Yeah, I didn't want to say his name.
No,
but
we all know it's a Morpheus thing, He was the guy that was, kind of given the Bitcoin and the money from Morpheus to do it. So he gets his DEA kicking in his door and put machine guns to his wife and child while he wasn't there.
Yeah.
He's got a bone to pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in next month or the month after, he's going to be the speaker on TSA.
Yeah. Peter's next month, and then we're going to get Tom the month after to fill us in on the book, because there really is a lot of in-depth research, and it's not just fiction. It's these fake characters, but talking about real life things. So he'll reference actual things.
So it's like
have
current
happened.
now. Is it going to be like 2020, 22? I mean, what does it kind of? Have you found out when the time frame is yet?
No clue, but he is citing things going back all the way throughout history and things that are happening in the present. So in one of them, he has a great one. He goes to create the illusion of a two-party system. This is where I sent him the Carol Quigley quote. He basically said, have the small government people be just as big as the big government people, but have them talk about small government. It's just so funny because that is the world we see in front of us. The small government party, the Republicans.
This is what I like about Tom. He knows.
He knows.
But he was in the machine. He knew what his job was. He did what he needed to do, and if he could get out of it, I'm sure he would.
Are you feeling confused about the current economic reports that dominate the headlines? Not sure if this is a good time to buy or sell your home, or feel like the process can be overwhelming and confusing? This is Donna Hancock with Silver Alliance Realty in Phoenix, Arizona, and I can take some of the guesswork out of the home buying or selling process, providing you with market trends in your area and detailing what to expect before, during, and after the process. A home is a place where the most important moments in your life happen, so making sure that you know exactly what to expect along the way helps to ensure that you have control. The future is here, so let me help you move forward with your real estate needs. Being in the real estate business for almost 20 years now has afforded me knowledge of the market, networking with industry specialists along the way. Now more than ever, you need an agent that can help you make sense of what many think is a complicated and mysterious process. Feel free to call or message me at 602-828-1819. That's 602-828-1819. Or visit my webpage today at donnahancock.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and one with just the Edgington Post. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Judge, the Democrats really set kind of a low standard
for a politician to represent. You know, I have been arguing that there is a legal basis for impeachment because it's really a political can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or the face Congress. increasing Now I want to argue that the House.
Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire?
Judge, the Democrats really set kind of a low standard.
Jay's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Okay, we're going to play a clip from Fox, however long it takes to load up, from Judge Napolitano talking about the impeachment. It's only a minute, so I guess we can break this much news because freaking I don't care. But the this is, it's being a pain in the butt. What they're doing, what he's talking about, is that Pelosi, they did the impeachment last night, but then the House takes the impeachment, and I guess they send the articles. It's a process. They take the football and they hand it off to the Senate. Well, I don't know if they think it's going to go the way they want or something. I don't know what the deal is here, but it looks like they don't have to. They just have it in limbo forever. I don't know what the deal is, but it's interesting, that they can just, we impeached him, but we don't want the Senate to get it to unimpeach or something. I don't know what's going on here. This is...
Judge, the Democrats really set kind of a low standard for impeaching a president yesterday.
You know, I have been arguing that there is a legal basis for impeachment because it's really a political judgment
on the part of the members of the Congress. Now I want to argue that the House has a moral and constitutional obligation to send those articles of impeachment to the Senate.
Because Nancy Pelosi has suggested she might not send it over unless it's going to be a fair trial.
Well, guess what? Under the Constitution, the Senate writes its own rules, not subject to the approval of the Speaker of the House or even the majority of the House.
Meaning they could take it up without having Nancy send it over to
I don't know. That's never happened. But the president is entitled to a trial at which he can seek exoneration. It could be a Lindsey Graham suggestion where, Mr. Chief Justice, we move to dismiss the charges and the Chief Justice will decide whether or not to dismiss, or it could be a full-blown trial. But he is entitled to that forum in which to defend himself. If these articles just sit on the Speaker's desk and go nowhere, that would be a profound and grave injustice to the president.
Judge, you're talking about things that have never happened before.
Correct.
Something that has also never happened before is a purely partisan impeachment. This was House Democrats only impeaching the President of the United States. Okay.
So this is more entertainment for Dr. Frank and me, and that's all I care about. So it's this whole thing is just. Have you been paying attention to this at all?
No, I mean the whole thing is just a long practice in moving the goalpost. Russia collusion, Trump committed an injustice, or we mean Russian meddling, or Russian hacking, or we actually mean Ukrainian interference.
They always
it's such nonsense.
Accuse you of what they're doing.
Exactly.
It's just you know what it is. And when I got done last night, I came home at 9:30. We started. I did an hour with James Corbett last night. And the big thing a few episodes ago that he had done really hit me. And, it's kind of the global banking, they, them, those, and all that kind of stuff. And my thing was, I've always been going, what are we up against? We're up against something. Now, there's this thing out there. There's this philosophy, a religion of we rule you, or elite, ivory tower, all these euphemisms they put on about it. And I'm going, the more and more, and it came from Dr. Frank, as we covered this process of the election and him getting elected and his presidency and all this kind of stuff, he emphasized the pathology of psychopaths, sociopaths. Okay.
Yeah.
So the sociopath next door kind of thing, and there is 4 or 5% of the population, they just don't have empathy. And a lot of times either it's beaten into them, something happened when they were young, or it's just a physiological, their brain does not allow them to have empathy or compassion. And if you read the Bible, I read it straight through a couple of times because I was young and wanted to do it. And I did the King James, and I'm like, what the hell did they say? So I did the Good News, and so I could but I thought I'd missed something. They translate out the real Bible, if I don't read the King James, that kind of thing. So I plowed through that, and then I did, the Good News was a little bit easier to understand. And I go through that, and I could kind of see what they were talking about. Evil, when they were talking about the bad guys and how it manifests, is this sociopath mentality. It's people that had no empathy or compassion for others, and that's where Christ came in. The compassion for that was a trait that made us human, that made us better. Society voluntarily works into what, as opposed to a Klingon society of freaking I got a bigger sword and sucks to be you and you're now dead.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what we're up against, but fortunately, it's only 4 or 5% of naturally in the population, but that percentage goes really high when you start looking at politicians and different professions of authority. And I'm going, oh, so what are we up against? We're up against a mental illness. It is a way that these people process information, and that you let us rule you, therefore you should be ruled, you morons. I do it because I can, and you're letting me. And the incentive, they go, crime doesn't pay. I remember Butler Schaefer, and he goes, BS.
Exactly.
Pays them a lot. Crime pays big time.
About $4.7 trillion a year with one group. Yeah.
So this is, it's really starting to crystallize. Because I've been asking the audience, you've been listening a while. I'm going, what the hell are we up against? It's becoming more clear to me. A lot of people would say, oh, there's no evil. And they'll go, evil doesn't. Usually it's the evil guys that says there's no evil. But, and what you're up against is this mindset of they have no conscience. It doesn't bother them, or it doesn't bother them enough. And they put people in these positions. I think Tom Jenney is bothered. I think he's in the middle of this. He did it for the right reasons. He came in, he got locked in, whatever, how he made his mortgage and whatever. He and I've had long talks before. We had him on, and I'm really interested. He's gonna absolve himself. He's gonna purge himself in this book, and I guarantee that's why it's so long. I want to tell you every story.
It'll be like Whittaker Chambers. He's a communist for decades and then writes a 500-page book. Witness, I'm so sorry I was a communist. It's evil. So yeah, maybe it'll be a lobbyist tell-all without him actually doing it. In the same way, I think George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, they totally had the inside info on what was going on. So they wrote fiction books about something that was real. I think Jenny's doing the same thing.
I'll bet you this may have the same impact from the inside.
Yeah.
He's like a Dick Clark kind of guy. He just looks young forever. I mean, the guy I remember him, he's like a kid. He's now, God, it's almost 25 years later or something, and he's like, he has to be in his 40s or something now or something. I remember he was like, man, he was a young guy. He was brought up right in the middle of this, and I'm just like, Tom, just don't lie to me, man. Just, whatever. Pace, I don't care. Just don't be. And I don't believe that he may not told me everything when, everything. But I don't think he's directly lied. So I can have a respect with people like that. Hey, man, that's your job. You think you're whatever. I don't care. So just don't lie to me. And then we can be friends. So we've remained friends. And I'm very interested in his book. This is going to be good. I don't read a lot, and this is not even published yet. I'm looking forward. I can't wait to get
it. I know. It's good.
So this is the writing style. You like it?
I love the writing style. It's in little letters, so it's letter 1 from Grandpa to Woody, the joke is Woodrow Wilson is the grandson that the grandpa's writing the letter to, or it has the same name. Because the time placement would be off, but you totally get this psychopathic feel from how the grandpa communicates to the child of, we have the right to rule. This is the way it is.
I got a shiny badge.
Exactly.
I got elected. One way or another.
That which is justified is that which we can get away with. So it's like, oh heavens! But yeah, you see like. Bush joking around about at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, there's no WMDs over here, maybe they're over there, and everyone else is laughing. And you see Obama joking about droning the Jonas Brothers if they talk to Sasha and Malia. It's like, when you're actually involved in this, and then you're joking about it, you might be a psychopath. If you go to the Bohemian Grove and worship that owl and do the cremation of care thing, you're probably a psychopath. I mean, imagine being responsible. Imagine being responsible for all this and not being totally devastated. Like, if you're late for a meeting, you feel bad. But when these people ruin civilizations, they're like, well, that is the price we pay in order for us to have a democracy.
You know what really freaked me out? It was a clip of George Soros, and he was talking about, I enjoy more than anything else is experimenting with countries and doing things go to crap. And, we've experimented with populations and death, dying, and destruction. If that didn't work, we'd do this and do that. Sociopathic. I mean, it's such a thing, and people talk about it. You're a psychopath, and they go, but it was clouds. It was way over my head. I wasn't paying attention. I'm looking down here for something, and it's just the evil that they describe in the Bible is so much more easily understood if you just replace it with no empathy or compassion. Boom.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck talking the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. LRN.FM now has a Discord. Discord is a free text and voice chat platform, and we now have our own server with a bunch of channels at discord.lrn.fm. You can join other listeners as they chat about various things during our live shows, or anytime, day or night. Discord software is available cross-platform, so you can have it on whatever device you want and take your chats anywhere. Join our Discord at discord.lrn.fm. That's discord.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Declare your independence with Ernest Hancock continues after the news, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
This is the Liberty Beat, your daily source for Liberty news and activist updates. Produced in partnership with SNLS News and listeners like you. Online at libertybeat.news and snls.news. I'm Mick Murrow with your latest edition of the Liberty Beat. Gold is trading at $1,476, silver at $16.94, and Bitcoin is trading around $7,236. Today's prices are brought to you by InnoScale. Take off with Managed Cloud. Looking for a safe, secure way to store your important files online? Let InnoScale handle it for you. Their high-availability cloud servers are the perfect solution for clients needing one or more secure, scalable servers with built-in hardware failover protection. For details, see them online at innoscale.net. In the news, drug recognition experts are arresting innocent, sober people for DUI at an alarming rate, all based on a hunch. According to ABC 15 Arizona, stone-cold sober drivers in Phoenix, Arizona, are getting DUIs and have to spend thousands of dollars proving their innocence. It seems the source of the misunderstandings and illegitimate arrests come from drug recognition experts. Those are cops with badges and fancy titles who claim they can look at a motorist and on observation alone determine if someone is impaired. Activist Post reports that testimony from DREs often holds up in court without so much as a failed breathalyzer or a dirty toxicology report showing alcohol and drugs in someone's system. The Liberty Beat is sponsored in part by Brave Botanicals. High-quality kratom and CBD at reasonable prices with excellent customer service. Brave Botanicals is activist-owned and mission-driven and believes so strongly in the power of kratom, they're giving it away for free. Just go to freeounceofkratom.com for a free ounce of kratom delivered to your door. Just pay shipping. That's freeounceofkratom.com. This is the latest edition of the Liberty Beat. Find us online at libertybeat.news and snls.news. Your news now continues. Oakland City Council President Rebecca Kaplan recently suggested a plan to house up to 1,000 people from the city's homeless population on a cruise ship. But officials with the Port of Oakland have just...
Okay, so we're talking about what? A decentralized justice system or something?
Well, I've been writing a book, and that's how it started. It was going to be a short story, Ernie, I promise, but...
Okay, no, you're overmodulating really bad. What kind of microphone? What are you doing?
I have a microphone on my phone. A phone?
Okay, is it a headset? I mean, are you...
I could put on a headset.
Well, it's really tinny. It's overmod. It sounds like this. It's really you know. I mean, we need to get better audio than that.
All right, hold on. Let's try this.
So you had it on speaker or something? Is that what you were doing?
Is this any better?
Okay, pull it. See, I can move the volume up here. Pull the.
Hear you answer.
Yeah, that's better. Pull the microphone away from your mouth a little bit more. I can put the volume up here. See, if you get too close, it sounds like you're in the buffer and it's not really that good. You know?
Yeah, it's a cheap ass Aristo.
Oh, there you go. There you go. That sounds better. All right.
Are we doing better now?
Yeah, no, that's good. And stuff your wires under your beard or whatever.
Well, hold on a second. It's all tangled up in white. Because tangled up in blue would be Bob Dylan, and we don't need any commies in this show, right? There, how's that? Does that look
boom
reasonably unprofessional?
Yeah, no, you're good. Okay, now move the camera to your right a little bit. You're off center. There you go. Boom. We're ready to rock and roll. All right. So count to 5 for me. Let me get a level.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There you go. All right. Sounds a lot better. All right. So we'll do that. All right. So you started a short story on something. All of a sudden now you're, freaking into a 1,200-page treatise on something.
7 novels. It's all fiction. See, I got started because nobody understood how it would actually look. People have, it's all by consent and there's compensatory justice and yada, yada, yada. And
well, there's a lot of ways. Have you read our justice thing on Pirates Without Borders?
Yes, I did. You sent that to me, and I agree with it. And it's
hell, I don't even remember it. I mean, it's
it's text.
Yeah, it's just something.
It's a prose essay about something, and people don't relate to that. People want to know, well, what would it be like? What would it sound like? What would it feel like?
Well, what could it be like? I mean, I don't want to pick. Here's the decentralized one that we pulled off the shelf. I mean, if I can't pull from a magazine 200 different ones that I might want to do, then you're not a free market. You're just, Jim's market.
Right. And that's the purpose. And that's the purpose of fiction. Fiction is to tell a story. And so I started out to tell a story about this place in Colorado in a valley where, and you've heard about a valley in Colorado from Ayn Rand and Atlas
Yeah,
Shrugged.
we're getting.
It's not called. It's called Paradox Valley.
All right, here we're starting. Here we go.
Valley.
8 seconds. Boom. Save it for the show. Here we go.
Evicted in the end.
This is the Onion News Network.
And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Today, let us make them remember. We are not afraid!
Yeah! Undefeated here and declare your independence from me, Ernest Hancock, here in Phoenix, Arizona. From the beautiful studios of Freedom's with an S, FreedomsPhoenix.com. All right, here we go. Now, Jim Davison, longtime acquaintance we've known for ever. God, it's been since early 2000s. I think we saw you at Freedom Summits and such, and he's always been in alternative and anarchist and leave me aloneism. And he's got a website, resilientways.net. Resilient Ways, RESILIENT Ways, WAYS.net, resilientways.net. Now, he started with writing some short stories on decentralized justice system. And I remember when he said, he started doing that and it kind of evolved more and more and more and more. Damn it, I would write a freaking, Hardy Boy series or something. So he's, doing that. Well, what happened was, I'm going, we kind of approached this a little bit. We've done Pirate Justice, the letter, one of the letters of reprisal is on, what a justice system might be. a decentralized one, a voluntary one, a self-funding one, something. How would you're going to have some kind of justice, as somebody said, and I got justice of I got this here sword or something. Lady Justice comes out with her scales and sword or lightsaber or something. I mean, you're going to have something. So we kind of gave, some things some traits it might have. I don't remember the details, but you go to pirateswithoutborders.com, the Letters of Marque, you'll see that you can buy the book online on Amazon, or you go to, the online version. You go to Letters of Reprisal, and it's the third and fourth letter kind of covers it too, because what we're doing is saying, what would it be like? Because you're going to have something. What are you going to have? I don't know. How are you going to do it? So then there's also the ID, your reputation precedes you. You have a record. It's not a rap sheet from the Crowns like a resume for pirates. I mean, I don't give a crap what they say. But if you have a reputation that people that you respect or, they get to, have an evaluation of you, well, then you need to know who it is. Got to be some biometric ID if that's a person. I mean, that's it won't be a Crown issued ID, but freaking, I'm going to take a picture of you. I want to know who the hell you are. And next time, I don't care what name you use, it's going to be, same guy, and your reputation precedes you. Well, what reputation? Well, some adjudication of you were good or bad guy and credit reputation score or something. So we've been addressing this kind of stuff, as has Jim. So Jim wants to talk about it, and we're going to get some. All right, Jim. What do you need to add to that preface to what we're going to talk about?
Well, so what I started out with was a fiction short story. It was going to be a short story, I promise. It's going to be short. And I started out with, how would it look? People walk into a room, they're sitting down. There's a guy who comes out from, behind a door, and he sits up on a dais and he says, "I'm not a judge." Because there wouldn't be just one judge, right? He says, "I'm a witness." And the story begins this way. So he's a witness to the proceedings. He's there kind of as a parliamentarian. He's trying to help people understand whether or not there's something to happen.
I mean, you're not going to have justice by Robert's Rules of Order, are you?
No, I'm going to have justice by a grand jury.
All right.
The grand jury is going to be people in the audience who volunteer and decide that they do think that they should sit on a grand jury. 24 people will sit and see whether or not there's any evidence to indict someone. And if there is, then they will choose 12 of their own members to see whether or not there is guilt. And then they'll decide what to do after that. So they're the judges. The people who are in the community become the judges. They decide whether or not there's a case, and then they look at all of the evidence. So
that's kind of what they started off now, and then it's voir dire, which is, I don't know, Latin or French or whatever for jury stacking. So I'm going,
yes, it is.
I'm like, is it going to have that? And what are the rules of evidence? And is there appeals? I mean, how do you structure this?
And so it's a short story, and I started out with this concept that, just like you're saying, that the only reason that a person can't be on the grand jury is that they're related to the victim or they're related to the accused. And the only reason that they can't serve on the grand jury might be also that they don't have time to also sit on the petite jury and evaluate the case. So we just need 24 people who can do both of those things. And there might not even be a petite jury because there might not be a case. If the grand jury says no bill, no indictment, go away, it's all dismissed, that's up to them. So I started writing the story, and then I realized that it's more complicated than that because we live in dangerous times. And if you and I were to start a court system, and somebody, in Paradox Valley, Colorado, which is where this is set, somebody goes into the Outlaw Bar and Grill and, gets drunk and ends up, being seen by witnesses stabbing somebody else to death outside. What do we do? Well, somebody takes the guy into custody, and then we have to have some proceeding, right? Because if somebody is seeing a murder, what do we do? So this is that process. But then,
you got me at somebody takes them into custody. I want to know who that is. I mean, it's a
bailiff, a commercial bailiff someone who has a facility where they can store a person for a little while, take care of them, show up and
paid for by whom, and do you address all these things?
I do address all of these things.
All right. We'll get into that later. We'll just assume he addressed all this stuff. So now we have a murder. People witnessed it. They got him in custody, and then you get into the details of the process.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's all on the Libertarian Enterprise website. It started in November. I really thought it would just be 3 chapters, 3 little pieces, and then we're done. But when I got to the 3rd piece, I realized that it's on the news. In the story, it's on the news. People are seeing it on the internet. They're watching this happen. And obviously the federal government sees this happening. And so they have an arrest warrant for false arrest and wrongful imprisonment. And they want to serve that on the guy running the court, or as they see, who they think is like the ringleader. Now, you write the title of the original part of the story, A Decentral Justice. It doesn't say the decentral justice or the only way to do decentral justice. It's like you said, it's a free market. So this is one place which has.
Okay, so this isn't a fictitious, kind of in the future locate. This is now, and a group of people in some community just decided this is what we're going to do. And then you got, the monopoly on force guys go, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not allowed to, no,
Exactly.
It's got to get our seal of approval or something.
It's set in 2023, so it's a few years in the future.
Got it.
There's been a messed up election in 2020. We have no idea, you and I, what's going to happen in 2020, but you can already tell.
The government's going to win.
It's going to be messed up. And the government's going to win, and they're going to say crazy things about each other, and at least 60 million Americans are going to be unhappy with whoever wins, right? Plus, there's 120 million Americans who probably won't vote again. They didn't vote last time. Why would they vote this time? Plus, 75 million children who aren't allowed to vote. So the 2020 election is going to be a mess. We're looking forward to that, right?
So this is something that you're going, and this is, we have I don't want to go through all these problems, which is, as a kid growing up in the South, this actually happens. They're called lynch mobs, and it was just a small community of, I don't know, this guy just wound up dead. Problem solved. Really? Is that how? I don't know. That's what we're going to talk about. When justice. I just watched Last Blood with Rambo. From the 6th letter of Captain Mark. A pirate's life is characterized by voluntary interactions. Unfortunately, the Crown presses everyone into involuntary servitude. Landlubbers believe slavery was abolished years ago, but the Crown still claims to own us when it crimps us into service against our will. Given sufficient ambition, it would gladly draft thousands of hapless victims to kill or be killed. It's simply slavery by another name. Landlubbers are routinely commanded to serve the so-called justice system in jury duty. But before you swell with civic pride, consider that how you feel is irrelevant to the Crown. You will appear as ordered or face punitive measures. The Crown insists that you participate in your own oppression. A jury summons provides pirates with a unique opportunity to obstruct injustices. A juror can vote not guilty, even if it's proven the law was violated. A juror can acquit for any reason at all, and not even a judge can reverse that verdict. Receiving a jury summons is basically winning the sedition lottery. But if you reveal that you know this during jury selection, you'll probably be dismissed. If the Crown foolishly crimps a pirate into jury duty, it behooves the pirate to conceal their intention to nullify unjust laws. If a master takes 100% of your labor, it's called slavery. But if they only take 50%, they call it taxation, a difference of degree, not of kind. Whether the Crown claims a fortune or a cent is irrelevant. Most of all, a slave owner desires contented slaves, meaning thoughtless ones that accept their bondage. These house slaves see no contradiction in being drafted in a war to end slavery or summoned to a jury to prosecute tax evasion. An ideal slave knows no higher call than the master's will. The Crown's highest ambition is that its slaves revere the authority that subjugates them. But the Crown does not own me. I will not surrender my time and treasure to the Crown's ambitions. Join the conversation at pirateswithoutborders.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration.
Yeah, that Shire Society Declaration is talking about. The Libertarian Enterprise is L. Neil Smith, which we're good friends. I've known for big influence on my life. And, the Shire Society was based on a letter that he had. And, of course, he, screamed in intellectual property infringement to a bunch of anarchists that go, it's like, and your point. I mean, so it was. So he and Dobby Barker went at it, and that's kind of, I'm like, it's a compliment, man. Chill out, So it's just, it's the inconsistencies on stuff sometimes just kills me. But we got up here the third letter of reprisal. Now, Dobby and I spend a lot of time on this stuff, and the one thing that I wanted to, I think people should read. I mean, your big giant thing we did in one letter. So it's our czar date. It's 45609-766. Now, what that really means is kind of a timestamp. It's 45th president, 609 days in office, 766 words. That's what that means, okay? So it's our czar date. Well, scales of justice, and we thought that it would be best to come from a female perspective. And so we actually look up, female writers that write on this different stuff, usually anarchist or whatever, but we try and get, some of the issues that are important to them. And I thought it was, like anti-war, the female reprisal character, self-defense, from a woman's perspective. Scuttlebutt is about reputation and your ID and how your reputation precedes you kind of deal. And then, of course, justice. And one of the things I'm going to read when we come back, all right, we're here. Just give me a minute.
FM to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
To be a part of the show, call 602-264-2800. 602-264-2800. And now, Ernest Hancock.
Okay, what I want to do is we have the scales of justice. It's our input on this from pirates, because you're going to have, what are you going to do when somebody kills somebody in front of the bar kind of thing. Well, there's a whole bunch of things that you have to. What's your goal and how are you going to do it, and what is So that's what we'll ask Jim on his. What's his goal? Is it to be, I don't know, in line, dovetail with the crown, ignore the crown? Is, justice is the goal, or, domestic tranquility? I mean, what is it? So we put just one of the paragraphs here. You'll see it says, among pirates, all justice is restorative, not punitive. So if there is no victim, there is no crime. Custom requires only that victims be compensated for violations of their life, liberty, and property. When two pirates can't settle a dispute amicably, the custom is to approach a third party to investigate the conflict and offer a resolution. Such a mediator is only tasked with balancing the scales between the individuals, not with rectifying some imaginary debt to society. So that one point that we're making, we're going, we're deciding that our particular brand of justice is not some damage to society and you're doing it wrong and we have a law. It's like, hey, somebody, was damaged, and we're going to have a restorative justice. We're going to make sure that they're compensated and getting whatever, maybe a little extra of whatever. Everything's tort kind of deal. So then we get into details, and you can do it this way and that way, and that's not, really the point. The thing that we're doing is we're going, we kind of lay it out that, why this is being done. Lady justice is typically depicted as carrying the sword and the scales. Punitive justice, symbolized by the sword, is an approach where statutory law is enforced through punishment. Alternatively, restorative justice, symbolized by the scales, focuses on making the victim whole again and incentivizing offenders to take responsibility for their actions. Well, and then it goes on and on and on. But that is our basis for whatever the hell it is that we would do. So what's your basis? What is it you're trying to accomplish?
Well, I'm actually trying to tell a story, because I think that if you just give people prose, if you just give them an essay that talks about how it might work and talks about alternatives and talks about, it does this and it doesn't do this and you have to choose, and There's all of these alternatives and possibilities. I think what people would like is a story that says, okay, this happened, and then these people, because they had all agreed that if there was a crime, they would be held to account in this way. Even visitors who come to the valley sign a little document that says that they agree that there will be a process. Show what the process is in a story form. This is not your process. This is not the Phoenix, Arizona process. This is not the Shire in New Hampshire process. This is the process in the fictional setting of my story in Paradox Valley.
No, I understand. I just want to know what the goal of that process is. I mean, what's your basis?
The goal of that process is justice, is to achieve some sort of non-lynch mob restorative justice, so that the person who did the thing that's wrong is now going to pay back, compensate the people who were victimized.
Okay, so your basis is restorative justice, and you're not having some you owe society if you didn't do and you're not allowed to smoke that or something.
Right.
Okay.
In fact, that's very early in the story. One of the first things it says is that it's not a crime if there's not a victim, and a victim can only have like person or property damage, psychological damage. If your feelings are damaged, that's not a crime. That's not allowed under the rules.
I know. I mean, it's amazing you got to specify that.
If you are sad one day, that's not a crime. You have not been injured. You're just feeling sad, and that's on you. Your feelings are your responsibility, sucker.
So it's not about the feels.
It's not about the feels. It's about, some physical damage, or something was stolen, or something, the use of something was deprived to someone else, or their life was taken away. If you watch that Carrie Pearson Lux Luker video, the philosophy of liberty, he goes into this, right? Your property is your time invested in stuff, right? And that means it's partly your life that's mixed with stuff. So it's yours. And the same thing for your life. If your life is taken away, they're taking away your future. That, you're a victim. And the people, related to you, your family, your friends, they lose you. You're gone. So you have to have some sort of system. You have to have some way of addressing this and saying, people need a sense of justice. Otherwise, in this case, it's I think it's Joe Jones is the guy who was seen, stabbing, the other guy, Bernard Grossman. Bernard's dead, and what's going to happen? Are Bernard's family going to now, string up Joe, and then Joe's family are going to string up some of Bernard's family, and you get into a blood feud, right? We've heard about this. There was a time when people wore neckties because they wanted to wrap up their necks so that if someone stabbed them in the neck, they had some better chance of survival. That's where the necktie comes from. That's where lynch mobs come from. And so there's a process in this Paradox Valley, in this story, where it happens in a different way. But because it becomes a news story, then the federal government sees this, and an FBI agent nearby decides to issue a warrant, get a judge to issue a warrant, because FBI agents have judges that they call up and judges to do anything. Because, the FBI knows, well, everything that judge ever did. So if he doesn't issue a warrant, well, then he's in trouble. He knows that. So in the story, these FBI agents drive 120 miles an hour down Colorado State Highway 90, and the sheriff is upset, partly because one of his deputies sees this cruiser, rolling past at dangerous speeds and, nearly hitting pedestrians and this and that, but also because the sheriff wasn't notified. And the sheriff feels that if there's going to be federal enforcement in his county, he should be told about it, right? This is a simple thing. Sheriffs like that.
Okay, why did it become longer? You started this, and was it from response of the readers? They're going, yeah, but what about, and what about, and what about, and what about?
No. This is all coming from some place, I don't know, in my head or out in the universe. These ideas are just like coming into my head. And when I start writing the story, the story does what it does. There's a consequence to having it on television, which is that the feds decide to intervene and stop it. And there's a consequence to the feds doing that in the stupid Fed way. The sheriff gets upset and comes and arrests the FBI agent. And because that's happening, there's all sorts of other things going on in the country that need to be described. And so I started describing them. Before long, I got 7 books, I think.
This is the one thing that you'd say how crazy this is until you start seeing it happening, where you got counties declaring, Second Amendment sanctuaries, and we're not enforcing. And if you
right now.
And if you come and do this, we're going to arrest you. And I've seen sheriffs do that in the past. So this is, this might be in the news. So we'll pay attention. We'll be right back.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your...
Keith, you got any questions for Jim? You interested? Keith Knight is a YouTuber, has a channel called Don't Tread on Anyone. And he sat in the first hour with me and Peter Schiff, and then we did a second hour, and now he's just hanging out all day. So he might have something, he's a big anarchist. What are you thinking?
Hey, Jim. I was wondering if you've read the work of, Ed Stringham or John Hasness or Bruce Benson.
Yeah, I read a lot of Ed Stringham stuff. Ed and I know each other from some conference.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't Ed speak at a
great.
Freedom Summit when he was young back in the...
Yes.
Yeah, I think he
younger
did.
then, too.
And
you were younger.
Oxford published his book, Private Governance.
Yeah, I saw that. That's a really cool book. I haven't finished reading it.
Yeah, did he become an economics professor somewhere or something?
He is an economics professor. I think he has a degree from George Mason University.
Yeah, no, I remember Ed Stringham. He was suggested by, I think, Butler Schaefer or some of the guys and so on. So, yeah, we've had Ed at the Freedom Summit back when you were in elementary school or something.
Well, I got to meet Ed at
was my first one.
I got to meet Ed at the Freedom Summit. Oh, no, I was just saying, he was there a couple years ago with David Friedman. That's where I bought a copy of Private Governance, and he just gives this excellent, just logical and historical case.
Oh, yeah, he was at a recent one, too.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's where I met him.
Oh, no, his first one was like in 04 or something.
Yeah.
So now he was a kid, man, and then now he's like, I'm getting old, man.
Well, yeah, he did that Learn Liberty video a long time ago about... do we really need government or something like that? And I remember thinking, being a minarchist at the time, that's intriguing. I'll see what this schmuck has to say. And it was so brilliant. I was like, oh my gosh, how has this gone unseen for so long?
So what's your the opposition in this thing, Jim? Is it the government itself, the feds? They're not doing a good enough job, and they see it as competition, and you're not allowed. I mean, is there any sympathy from the government at all, or what?
There's quite a lot of that. Well, and that's part of the problem is that by 2023, I think that there will be more than one concept of the national government. It'll be a mess, like it is now, only more obvious. As I envision it, the coastal areas where they're disarming people now, like the West Coast and the East Coast. There will be places in New Jersey and Delaware where there are actual slave camps where they have captured people and they've just taken all their stuff and they're putting them to work. And so part of the story is about that. Part of the story is about abolitionists who go in and raid those camps, break them open, free the people inside, haul them to safety. That kind of thing is happening in this particular part of the future, because that's how I see the world going in the not too distant future. I don't think, and correct me if you feel I'm wrong, but I don't think the system as it is currently operating has a long-term future. It can't sustain itself.
Well, it may not in its present form, but it's always Let me write this down. We'll talk about this on air.
Yeah, it's just coming up with different ways or different titles to violently dominate people. It's like, we would never engage in slavery. By the way, sign up for the draft, or else you'll go to jail. And then Rahm Emanuel's like, we should have 2 years of mandatory public service.
That was my
All right, here, we're coming back. Here we go.
First protest.
.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Roads? It's the Ernest Hancock Show. Where we're going, there aren't any roads.
It's all about the feels. You know what are we gonna? How are we gonna feel about it? How's the man gonna feel about it? Emotion. It's all about the feels. Yeah, you making me feel better? Well, I don't know. Maybe Jim can help us out here. This is one of the last paragraph we have on the scales of justice thing. It says, the consensual structures of pirate justice are far superior to the bias of the Crown's court, because social change precedes political change, and forcing the Crown to adapt to social change is an arduous process requiring mass movements, civil disobedience, and even civil war. Customs, on the other hand, are described and shared as they co-evolve with social change. Pirate arbiters discern their verdicts by observing the normative behavior of a living crew. Customs are amended only by voluntary adoption, not by the edict of the Crown. Without access to a just process for individuals, there can never be a just society. The point that we're making is that, what is custom and what is acceptable and not acceptable and what the law is, they have years or decades between them. And it's just so you never get a current sense of justice. And so it doesn't work the way we're doing it now. And you have anything else, what happens? They, them, those are like, oh, hell no. You're so freaking not allowed to compete with our sets. And they will defend to their corrupt system because it's their system. So when you try and do something else, which some communities do, and a lot of times it's in contracts. We're going to have binding arbitration, a mediator, blah, 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 blah. But what about criminal behavior? So, and then you got to define what's criminal. Is it a crime against the state? Well, just ask China. They'll explain it to you. Hell, ask the U.S. I'll explain it to you. So then you go, is it a crime against society? Which society? Crime against humanity? Well, it's a global thing. I'm just going, where is it? What the hell's a crime? Well, first you got to have a victim. Let's do that. Nope. We want to be able to have justice for not a victim. Well, who's the victim? Well, society is the victim. I'm like, whoa, we have gone so far off the beam here that I don't know if you can kind of fix it without a fundamental change in what it is as we define justice. Jim's trying. All right, help me out, Jim. What you got going?
Well, I think you can't have peace unless you have justice. If there isn't a system of justice that people can understand and they can get behind and they can be involved in, then they will not be peaceful. People will be combative. They will be struggling. They will be at war because there's no justice. And without freedom, without a choice involved, without consent, then you cannot have justice.
Aha! Okay, now you're getting into what I want to talk about. That can't go any further until we define this. Justice. I got somebody saying social justice. I got somebody saying, I don't know, earth justice, Gaia justice, the justice of the planet justice. What the hell? Define your term, man. Justice. What the hell does that mean?
It means that when someone commits a crime or a tort, they are held accountable and they pay compensation to the victims of that crime or that tort. Tort means an act of negligence. Tort is one four-letter word that means an act of negligence, which is a lot of words and syllables. So tort, crime, tort, you have to have a process. And the process has to be consensual. The people involved in the process have to have consented to it, or it's not justice, right? There's no freedom there can be no justice.
Hey, the cowboy coming off the cattle drive into the town, and he didn't check his guns, and he got drunk. He went in, boom, 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 boom. I didn't consent to your crap. I didn't put my guns, check them at the thing. I don't care. I don't have any justice if you don't. I didn't sign up. I mean, there's got to be, did you come in the city limits of? I mean, the jurisdiction, and we posted enough signs. I mean, all of these, you're going to get pushback on everything. So I'm just wondering how you define justice. One has to be.
That's why I wrote a short story. That's why I started a fictional story.
Yeah.
Because in the fictional setting, I don't have to worry about the fact that somebody has some complaint about this particular part of the process. Hey, it's just a fucking story. If you don't like my story, write your own story. Write a story that goes with
766 words.
I know. Well, the major point is that every criticism you can have of Jim's system or Edward Stringham's ideas, every single thing that you say, well, what if X, A, B, and C happens? That also applies to government. What if there's an unjust verdict? Okay, yeah, that could definitely happen. Does government leave us with only just verdicts?
This is the reason why I bring this up, and I think it's more than the details of how you do it and the story evolves is not as interesting or I think crucial to me as what the goal is. Because, what do we want? Peaceful enjoyment of your life and your own property. The purpose of government is defense of individual rights. If it doesn't do that, it's time to alter or abolish. It's your right, your duty. Okay, boom. Declaration of Independence. I'm all over it. So I'm going, what's the purpose of this? To me, it would be the defense of individual rights. Well, then you go, okay, well, what's an individual right? And you go on and on and on and on. The thing that we made a point about is social change precedes political change, which, change. So it's like, how does this happen? Well, I've seen it in my lifetime, and it's usually in parliaments. Like you look at the United Kingdom, comes to mind as United Kingdom Parliament. They, right when they're in the streets and people are like they're doing in France, or hell, it's coming to London. So they're just in the streets. All of a sudden, you'll have some party will come up and they'll go, yeah, we're for whatever the heck it is, and we're with the people and vote for us and all that. And all of a sudden, all the bad guys that they're elite, ruling of whatever over here, they moved over to this party, or they combined with that, or they're always following the social change to maintain political power. And they don't really do it, they just say it. So I'm going, there is always the manifestation in people always create parades that then politicians want to run and jump in front of. Woohoo, vote for me and I'm the guy and all that kind of stuff. I'm going, but that is not, the mechanism is not really the goal. The mechanism is there to do what? So I'm like, defense of individual rights. I picked that one. All right, fine. Then you got to define that. And then you get into all the details. And so we've come up with our details and what the traits it might have and so on. But as you're doing this and you're getting a lot of stories, and they'll start getting muddy with Fed involvement and sheriff and the people and rise up and whatever, to what end? Are you trying to, influence and change the country, maintain autonomy for this Galt's Gulch or something? What is the ultimate goal?
So for me, as a writer, the goal is to avoid the tremendous pain and angst and difficulty and soul-crushing, depression that comes from not writing the story that's inside it. The story wants to come out, and if I don't write it, I'm going to be miserable. And I understand writers want to sell books and writers want to make a living at writing, which, as Robert Heinlein described, is sort of a weird thing that you can do that. You can do that and they'll pay you, really? Some people no longer think that happens, and that you can't make it. You can't publish because the publishing industry is all social justice warriors, and you can't not publish because then nobody reads anything. I don't care about that. My goal is to just get this story out of me. It needs to be pushed out into the world. And the neat thing about Ken Holder at the Libertarian Enterprise, he lives there in Arizona. He's a good guy. He will publish the stuff that I send him. So in November, I was like, okay, well, I got this short story. I'll send the first chapter to Ken and he'll publish. So he did that. And I wrote the second chapter, and it was like, okay, I'm up to 7 chapters now. I'm writing my 8th chapter. there are books now. There are whole books that are coming in.
Okay, well, where are you at now? What part in the trial or the process? What are you?
Oh, that was all interrupted. That was interrupted by the feds, and now this guy who was originally going to just be a witness to the proceedings and help people get through it, he is now on a Mach 3 aircraft heading into a war zone on the East Coast where the slave camps are being broken open, and there's open fighting between the Red Brigades, the communists, and there are all sorts of deep state people behind them, and the freedom fighters coming in, parachuting in.
Crypto tip is the ideal
out. Blood in the streets. It's an exciting story, Ernie. There's conflict and action and love.
Okay,
and
so this justice thing was just a beginning, and you got launched off into gym land. Okay.
I had no idea.
All right. Once you start, you know.
I think it's coming in from the universe, Ernie. It's all spooky weirdness, but I honestly don't know where this story comes from. It's just coming to me, and I'm putting it out. And like I said, the only reason a writer like me has to write, and I write essays and short stories now and long stories now, it's because it's inside, and if you don't let it out, it kills you. It just destroys who you are. So that's my reason.
All right. What about you, Keith? You got a story coming?
Oh gosh, yeah. I have. I've not had a story, but some nonfiction. I wanted to turn my speeches into books: The Case for Anarchism, The Case for Capitalism, America's Foreign Policy of Deception. Those are 3 speeches that I've had that I turned into videos that I'm trying to make into a book, but heavens, it's hard to get together.
Is this a free flow of just thought and information from experiences, or are you like doing research, or is this just a lifetime of, man, I'm just writing? How does this work?
Well, it's mostly that. It's just the ideas come in, and I do have frameworks. I worked with Michael Van Natten, who wrote about the law of the Somalis and a judge-based government system, Pritarchy he calls it. And I've read Spencer Heath McCallum's books, and I've read Spencer Heath's books, and I've read, Josiah Warren stuff, Wendy McElroy stuff, Murray Rothbard stuff. I read all of this stuff, but so much of it is nonfiction. And nonfiction only gives you a certain sense of, well, it might work, and there's all these criticisms. Whereas fiction gives you a universe in which it is working, it's happening, people are dealing with it. Yes, there are these problems, there are these opponents to it, and you can see it in a story format, and I think that's very powerful. I think that's why Ayn Rand wrote The Fountainhead. She wrote The Fountainhead to try to explain her philosophy long before her philosophy was written out, and long before Atlas Shrugged had the 63-page speech by John Gall, pounding people over the head with the philosophy in the middle of a novel, which I think is cheeky. She wrote The Fountainhead, and it becomes a major motion picture with like named stars in the 30s. You can look it up on Wikipedia. The Fountainhead talks about these philosophical ideas without having to make footnotes. And I really don't want a footnote. It's a novel. It's a story.
Yeah.
I don't want a footnote. If
but
you want a footnote,
do you got a
look it up? Do
you got a Fountainhead or a Atlas Shrugged, long Galt type speech or Rourke speech or something? Give me an 80-pager.
I don't think those things work, Ernie. I mean, listen, if people wanted to read 636 pages of essays by Jim Davidson, they would buy the book Being Sovereign, which is on Amazon, and you can put up an Amazon link and get your commission. But about 400 people have bought that book since 2010. It's 9 years. That you can't make a living selling books that nobody reads. So that's not. I'm not doing nonfiction on this. I'm doing fiction. It's a story, and if the story works and if people like it and they identify with the characters, then they'll maybe they'll throw some bucks at me on the Libertarian Enterprise.
All right, we'll see. All right, here we come.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Yeah, ain't that Merca? You know, we're Mercans. Them cares, Merca. You know, this is and when you have any kind of competition with the Crown on anything, you know, they're just. No, did you get a permission slip? You're not allowed. You know, so I like having these kinds of discussions, and a lot of these kinds of books, of course, spark some thought with a lot of people. And I'm just wondering, what's the foundation that you're operating from? Is it just to tell the story, or are you trying to give an example of what can be or should be? What's your goal? Just to maintain your sanity by just writing?
Well, that's part of it, obviously, but I also think that people do identify with fictional characters. The Star Wars film in 1977 changed the way everybody saw film. Suddenly, instead of having 5 minutes of credits at the beginning, it was just boom, you're in the action. George Lucas did that. That was a complete, shift from the way things had been before. It's a story. It's not really a great story. The second film, I think, the Empire Strikes Back, he does a much better job with. But the first story, it's just action and adventure, and there's a hero, and there's a damsel in distress, and there's maybe a love connection, and there's a rogue. That's what people want. They want to have a story that they can relate to, so that this process of understanding the philosophy isn't in their face, and it's not a nonfiction. There might be a test on this. There's not going to be a test. It's a story. And if you like the story, then you read the story. And if you don't like the story, then, you read something else.
The reason I bring talking earlier this week, I think I was talking about this. It was I used to enjoy Tom Clancy novels. A friend of mine was big into Tom Clancy, and he'd talk about it. And okay, and I'd read, it was a fun book, and but his premise was he was Merkin. It's not the American system. It's not our Constitution. That's not the problem. It's not the system. It's the men. And if Jack Ryan was president in charge of everything, well, crap, everything'd be good. We just got the wrong guy in there. And I'm going, no. And you could see it started to become propaganda. And I'm going, of course the Navy works with them. Of course the White House. Of course of course, because. Of course Netflix picks it up. Of course. This is because it's supporting their base philosophy of you got this Merca thing. And I'm going, all right, your series of books, your long story would be what? What's the solution?
Freedom matters, and you can not have justice unless you have it. And peace matters, and you can't have peace unless you have justice and therefore freedom. So it all fits together.
Well, hell, I hear that from the left. No justice, no peace, okay, we're define justice.
Right,
what the hell are you talking about?
They say that, Ernie. They say that because they want to have you on their side. They want people like us to be on their side.
But they got to define what they mean. Then they go social justice.
They're communists, and they want to take away our stuff, and including our lives. So they're lying. Certain people do lie, but I believe in freeing the slaves, stopping the wars, and ending the state. And I don't think I can do that without writing a fictional story about it. I have to write a fictional story about it so people can get into that mode of thinking and see what would it be like if there were slaves on, in slave camps on the Delmarva Peninsula, in New Jersey, in the Pine Barrens. What if they had big camps? What would you do? What would you, as an American, do about slavery on this continent in your country? You can drive there and do something about it. Would you do anything? I know people who lived in Dallas who actually did drive to Waco in April of 1993 because they were not going to have it happen without them doing something. Now, they ended up not having anything to do because everybody was being killed. And they could have thrown their lives away. But I know people like that. And I feel their feeling. I feel their intense desire to, this is terrible and I have to do something. And I want to convey that in a story to people. I want other people to have that visceral reaction that I'm not going to let people be enslaved on my continent.
Okay, so this evolves into you think you're just going to give an example of how this one community would then evolve, and here comes the Fed. and what the resistance.
And here comes the rest of the story. Yes, it's been slamming into me, and I'm doing my best to get it out of me.
So you think this is going to be what, an ongoing series? It's going to be a 1,200-page book? I mean, what are you thinking?
Seven books.
And what are you on, the first one, or these? You're in the.
I'm on the 8th chapter of the first one, yeah, and it's already bigger. I'm starting to outline it in my head, and it's terrible. It won't end. It's everywhere. It goes into space, Ernie. It goes to the moon.
It goes what?
To the moon?
Oh, okay. Well, that's one thing. The Moon is a Harsh Mistress was a big influence on me. Heinlein's thing on their justice system. I mean, it involved an airlock, but I mean, it was.
That's interesting because Anthony Davies and David Friedman say the same thing, and so many people say it about Ayn Rand that I think. I think
say what same thing?
Say the same thing that